How y'all doing? I know I'm never on stream. I apologize. I'm gonna be off stream for a little bit, so there's gonna be semi-audio podcast, and I'll come back on screen a little bit later. But let's get things started with my man Dre. How you doing, bro?
I'm good, man. How you doing?
You know, not bad. Yesterday was a lousy ass day, but made up for it this week. Made up for this week today, and that's always a nice feeling. Um, Also, when just it's busy, so the day flies by.
Yeah.
But doing all right. Doing all right.
Yeah, I thought you
Okay.
said it was a good day at work today.
Yeah, you're at work right now, right?
Yeah, I am. That's why I'm not on camera.
You work in an overnight graveyard?
Yeah, I'm working overnight.
Eesh. How early do you get up?
I get off at 6 a.m.
So you do like a 6 to 6?
Yep.
Whew. 12-hour shifts. 12-hour shifts are distinctly different from 10-hour shifts, I've found. 10-hour shifts don't seem to be that difficult to really adjust into with right break timing, but 12 hours, that extra 2 hours can really get at you.
Yeah, I won't start to feel it until like maybe midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning. It's like, all right, I gotta walk around, get some coffee or something. But it's Saturday, so the building's empty.
Word. That makes it easier.
Yeah. No eventful things going on besides a condom in the hallway.
Oh, shit.
Can you hear me?
I'm gonna say, yeah, what just happened? You good?
Yeah, no, I had to switch out like I was mentioning before.
Okay.
Um,
But what just happened?
Hello.
Yeah, I'm here.
So I guess again, I apologize to those who are there. I just been talking to my damn self, and it removed me. I was saying that we had talked to Dre previously and got to know a little bit about him, and what we're going to talk about this week is his experience in the Navy, and see if maybe we can't learn a little couple of insights that maybe we don't know about it, and get a little bit of reality entered into the very entertainment focused depiction of the military that we often see. So maybe we'll learn that things are maybe a little bit grittier, maybe not as bad as we see, or maybe it's a little more exactly like we thought. But first question I got for you, Jay, is when was the first time you considered even going in the military?
Um, I'd say probably junior year at UConn. Well, or me, junior senior year at UConn when I seen they had like a ROTC Air Force thing up there, and I was talking to those people and about going to the military and being an officer and everything like that. I never really gave it any real consideration before that though.
Any particular reason?
Why I didn't think about it?
Yeah, because often, especially while we were growing up, it was something that was usually brought up, or you knew somebody who was serving, or you knew somebody who was a fucking asshole who maybe started serving. They're like, oh, now they're a responsible asshole. Um, I always saw military people around me growing up and stuff like that, so it was always kind of on the back of my mind. And then also grew up playing like war, you know.
Nah, I'm pretty sure everybody knows a couple people, in the military or got family that's veterans, but I just never thought about it as being a thing to do. It was like, I'm gonna just go to college. But when you get through college and you see what society's like and you see how this thing is set up, it's like, oh, it's a money grab. So you either gonna become a consumer and just, buy things and be in debt and waste your money, or you gotta be somebody who thinks a little bit differently about it. Because there's not that it's really hard to find a good job, a stable, consistent job in America. And that's one thing about the military is they are always hiring, and they got good benefits. Which is it sounds terrible. Most people don't want it, but it's like, yeah, what you gonna do? Be on the corner, homeless, begging people for money? Some people are okay with that.
To the people that are okay with that, if you're not being a fucking asshole about it, hey, if it makes you happy, I don't care if you're homeless as long as you're fine with it. However,
Probably are though. You're probably gonna be an asshole about it.
probably. I mean, I saw a video recently where, go figure. I think it was San Francisco. There's some type of loophole where essentially they'll pay you like $600 a month to be homeless. And so somebody did a interview with the guy that was there, and he had like a tent and like a couple of things. And he was talking to him about it. He was like, yeah, no, I chose to do this. Like, I don't want to work. I don't want to do that. And they give me $600 and I'm homeless. And like, I have a cell phone bill, and I watch YouTube. I have a Hulu subscription, but he also sleeps on the sidewalk. And it's just like, that's a weird fucking dynamic to think about at this point.
Yeah, nobody wants to work for a living, but it's too late in the game to try to be like, yeah, I'm just not gonna do anything. Like, good luck being homeless out here. It's not gonna get any better for homeless people in this society.
Definitely not. And I think it's somewhat ironic that the majority of homeless folk are actually veterans as opposed to other people, because
I won't say the majority, but a decent amount. It's a noticeable amount, but when you go to any big city and you see the homeless people, you see a lot more younger people nowadays and a lot more women. Those numbers, the teenage homeless crisis is a big deal, which is crazy to think. Like, there's 15-year-olds or 14-year-olds that are homeless, and a lot of women.
Yeah, that really is crazy. It's really sad too. Like, I get that, there's just shitty people out there, but people do a lot of the woe is me type of shit where they're like, life couldn't be worse than my experience. It's like, you're in America, so absolutely wrong in that sense. If you're living in America, period, you don't have the worst existence. Unless you're like trafficked here, then your life might be one of the worst. But that's kind of different.
If you play the comparison game, like, being homeless in America makes no sense, because people who are not homeless and are doing very well right across the street from you, or doing way better. I'd rather be fucked up in a country where everybody's fucked up instead of being fucked up in a country where it's like, oh shit, there's millionaires and billionaires right around the corner.
Yeah, because that also like gets rid of a jealousy. If everybody looks like they're at the same level, even if everybody's struggling, you can kind of connect on that, as opposed to get green-eyed over the fact that somebody has something that you don't.
Yeah, that jealousy happens.
Speaking of jealousy, did you experience anything like that when you went into boot camp?
Jealousy?
Yeah. Or any type of just petty, dramatic bullshit?
No, there's definitely petty, dramatic bullshit. People are fucking weirdos when you really get out your own little social circle or wherever you're from. But I wouldn't say any jealousy. But again, you might be oblivious to somebody that's jealous or hate you. You might not even, because if you don't think about it like that, you're not gonna think other people are thinking about it like that.
True. I see what you mean. So what's like an example of some fuck shit that you experienced? Like what was the first what the fuck moment you had going in the military? Like at post like MEPS but into boot camp.
But boot camp is really simple, right? All you got to do is not be a dickhead and fold clothes. But people fail at that, and there's people who just can't understand the concept of making your bed properly every morning. Or people who it's like, why you wanted to join the military and you can't do 10 push-ups? What were you thinking? You can't swim a lap. You want to be a that kind of stuff is just weird. But you've seen plenty of that. Plenty of people, it's like, yo, you can't do 30 sit-ups. You can't run a mile. Like, I wasn't in the best shape. I was in pretty good shape before I got to boot camp. But some people, they're like athletes their whole lives, or there's people who were in the military because they couldn't play college basketball anymore. So that guy's he's gonna do fine as far as physical fitness goes. But there's people who it's like, yo, you gotta do push-ups. It's not that difficult, and the fact that you can't do them, they're gonna make you do even more, and they're gonna know that you were the target, right? You the person that can't do the card. So there's this orange card. I'm pretty sure it was orange card that the RDCs would have that have all the workouts listed on it.
That's RTC like
RDC, Recruit Division Commander.
Okay.
So basically like a drill instructor, but the Navy uses acronyms way more than I thought they did. For like everything. Like the other branches just would say that's a drill instructor.
Huh.
But the RDCs they use the card on people. But it's just simple things like it's really not hard to get through boot camp.
No, that's something I've heard nonstop throughout my life. Essentially, now there's definitely bravado behind it, and there's different intentions behind boot camps for the different branches. But are you aware in terms of the actual comparison between, say, the Navy and other branches, and whether or not it really is just frou-frou bullshit comparatively?
It's all the same thing. Like boot camp for each branch is basically going to. You got to understand that this is the major part of the indoctrination for your whatever branch, right? So if you in the Navy, they preaching you Navy is Navy. It's the same for the Marines and the Army. They're gonna run. They're gonna do exercise. The Marines and the Army are gonna exercise a little bit more because they're not gonna be doing as much technical shit.
Right.
But I mean, everybody, you basically gonna work out every single day, pretty much every day.
While in boot camp.
Yeah, in boot camp. One thing about what I noticed when you're done with boot camp, like actually are part of the Navy. The other branches still exercise daily, and some commands in the Navy will make you exercise. Like my first shift, we did command PT. I want to say 3 times a week.
Huh.
Some ships don't do any PT at all.
That doesn't really like. I understand that there's a heavy technical focus with the Navy, but doesn't it just make sense as a military branch to make sure your physical fitness is, more peak than not? Because I imagine if you just were like, sailors don't really need to be that peak of fitness, and then we got bombed in Japan, and everybody was like, well, fuck, I'm kind of out of breath already. It just doesn't seem like
it. To be quite honest, like if you're on the ship all day, you need how many miles you need to run around the ship? You don't need to work out that much. To be quite honest, and your physical fitness is the thing you're responsible for the most. Like the other branches, they're not gonna let you be responsible for it because it's part of your job to like run miles and carry your rifle everywhere and shit like that. Whereas if you're on a ship, I don't got to worry about carrying a rifle everywhere. The Marines do though. That's why they're much more focused on physical fitness because their job is going to be more physical.
Almost all their jobs are in the field, right?
I mean, every branch has got its tech side, but they're outside. So I would see the Army people do their command run first thing in the morning pretty often, whereas most ships, it's like it's really hit or miss. So there's some captains who are like, nah, we're gonna exercise. The whole command is gonna be there, and we're gonna do at least 3 times a week. Some ships don't say anything like that, so it's all over the place.
Now, is that a battalion, or I don't know how to really refer to the echelons, but like, is that a captain choice, or is it like a fleet commander choice kind of thing?
It's not that it's not that high as fleet commander. Your command, well, your captain is obviously in charge of the command, and some captains are like, hey, y'all wasting too much time not doing what you need to do. So forget that command PT shit. You guys have other things you need to take care of on the ship. Whereas other captains are like, hey, look, we could balance it out. And they'll say, which is so weird that captains do this, they'll say, we'll leave it up to the khakis, we'll leave it up to the chiefs. So your chief is really the one who's gonna say, all right, guys, we do our work, we go to command P or divisional PT after. But it's so it's there's no one way to do it.
So, like, it's not a requirement of the branch, but it's something
Oh no, it's
that.
a requirement because you still get tested on it. You still have to do a fitness exam, and
Well, I
you
mean,
have
as long
to
as even if you pass the PT test, though, isn't there like a mulligan to where it's like you didn't pass, you need to lose weight or whatever, and then you get to try again, or do they just say like, nah, fuck you and kick you out? Because
no.
that seems like a waste
It
of
used to be that
investment for
way.
them to do that.
It used to be that way where they would kick people out. If you failed back-to-back PRTs, that's how it used to be. They would separate you, but they don't do that anymore because the Navy's like, why would we kick people out who clearly don't want to be here? You're gonna finish your contract. At the very least, you're gonna finish your contract. Because there were people who were like, why would I exercise and go to the PRT? You're about to kick me out. People will get fat and lazy and out of shape, and they're like, yeah, I don't care. Just kick me out. There's people who would. So my first ship, I don't know if I ever told you this story. This is a good one. We had a BM3 who, he BMT.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what's a BM3?
Bosun mate, third class, petty officer, United States Navy.
What'd you say?
Bosun mate, a bosun. Google bosun mate.
Both. Essentially,
So this
that's the
dude,
officer, though, right?
no, that's
Okay.
definitely not an officer.
All right. Well, I will let you get back to it, and I'll look up both of you at some point.
So this dude got into the Navy, and after a while, people get fed up and they hate their job and shit. So he intentionally gained like 100 pounds just to get separated. And that was back when the Navy would medically separate you for being overweight. It wasn't like a bad thing if you got kicked out for being fat to a lot of people. So he intentionally gained this weight, got medically separated, and like 6 months later, he got back in shape after he got kicked out the Navy because he was like, I don't want to finish my contract. Just kick me out. And I was like, that's crazy to put your body through all of that just to get out of the Navy.
I mean, couldn't you just not re-up if you're gonna finish your contract anyway?
No, I'm saying, say you got a 5-year contract, but after 2 years, you're like, I hate this life. I hate this ship. I hate everything about this on the daily. You can't just get out because you want to get out. So he's like, all right, I'll gain all this weight. I'll fail my PRTs, fail my weigh-ins, all that other stuff. They medically separate you. You get all your benefits and everything, and then you get back in shape. So you don't have to finish your whole contract. He got out halfway through his contract. It's actually a genius move, but it's
I
crazy.
was gonna say that sounds. I mean, there's no repercussions there for like, is it dishonorable discharge or not even that?
No, it was I'm pretty sure he got a general discharge because it wasn't like it was because it's medical. So technically, they would say it was medical, but the Navy obviously noticed that there's a lot of people who are just failing PRTs on purpose to get out. So they're like, nah, you can't do that anymore. That happened about halfway through my 5 years. Like a lot of people kept saying, I'm gonna get fat, so I get separated, or I'm gonna fail my PRTs on purpose. So everybody has a number that they have to do when it comes to push-ups and sit-ups and the cardio. There are people who are like, I'm just gonna do 5 push-ups. What are they gonna do? Say I can't. Say they're gonna tell me I can do more.
5 push-ups and then just drop on their arms
Yeah,
like,
just be like, oh, I can't do anymore. I failed. And there's people who literally can't do 10 push-ups.
that's crazy. I'm so out of shape, and like I did 20 today.
I can't remember last time I had to do 30 push-ups, but I could probably do a decent amount of push-ups. For my job right now, we had to do like a little physical exam, like a run around and everything. It wasn't anything like the Navy, but it was still somewhat similar. But I noticed the trend in a lot of people doing that, but the Navy stopped that. So if you fail PRTs, it's whatever. It doesn't matter anymore. But you're gonna finish your contract. You won't be able to re-enlist if you wanted to, but you're gonna finish the contract.
Huh. That's interesting. Good. Shout out to that guy for finding the loophole and getting through before they cut it out. Because honestly, if somebody is that dedicated to not being useful, they're not an asset, and it's something that you should cut off. But letting people know, look, you signed a fucking contract.
Yep.
Whether or not you read that contract or you fully understood, somebody should have impressed on you at some point. You should read your contracts, especially when it involves essentially saying, all right, for X amount of the following years, I am United States government property. Not a person or citizen in the traditional sense. You become a property and an investment of the United States government, specifically in the military. And
Yeah.
I don't know what the actual number is per person, but I'm sure there's probably a couple $100,000 invested per person by the end of boot camp and MOS training.
Oh no, that's a lot of money to you, especially depending on what your rate is and what school you go to, NECs and all that other stuff. Because I remember one time I got hurt. I can't remember what happened.
Like in boot camp or while you were already serving?
No, I think I broke my ankle.
Oh shit! Were you playing basketball?
Yeah, I broke my ankle.
No shit.
And I was walking, going back to the ship to check in, and the chief, I had a chief at the quarterdeck was like, "I'm writing you up for destruction of government property."
What?
He was joking. He wasn't serious.
That's hilarious.
But like that's real shit. Like everybody's the government's property. So I find it funny when people talk bad about people in the military and be like, "Don't you know you're the government's property?" It's like, yo, everybody born in this country, as soon as you were born in a hospital, most likely. Them people already been tracking you and got government numbers for you from the day you were born. It doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. So it's like, yeah, okay, I'm government property. I don't really care. I used to be like caught up in that, but I don't give a shit anymore. I'm like, yeah, I have a DOD number. I don't really care anymore. Everybody's got some number the government's tracking them with, but let people believe whatever they want to believe.
I can feel you on that. I definitely had similar kind of hangups beforehand. Honestly, like, it sounds like bullshit to people, but I just know myself well enough, and that's why I never pulled the trigger on joining. But I think I mentioned this to you. I might have even said it on the previous podcast, but like the idea of just knowing without a fucking doubt, it is promised that I'm going to have to listen to some fucking retard tell me what to do. I couldn't relegate
You do it
myself
anyway.
to that.
You do it in life anyway, bro.
But like,
I understand what you're saying because you kind of like choose that when you decide to join the military. But no matter what you choose in this life, you're gonna have somebody tell you what to do, and you're gonna look at them and say, "You're a fucking idiot. Why am I listening to you?" Oh, because you've been doing this longer. Okay, it sucks. It's part of life though. Like, there's no job where you can escape this. Where I could do what I want to do, and I don't have a boss.
I see what I agree with you. Although currently, I kind of have that situation at my job, which is nice. Like, I have a boss, but I do what I want because I perform. But that's just how I work. I make sure I perform better than everybody else. So essentially, I can do what I want, and I'm an asset such that then rather than telling me, they ask me because they know that I'm somebody whose input who matters. And that chance, which I come across and I make that happen for myself in like work life, such that if I went into the military, it doesn't fucking matter if every single time I point out, hey, this is what we should definitely do, otherwise we might get butt fucked. If somebody's like, nah, I don't give a shit, we're gonna get butt fucked because they don't get butt fucked, at some point
it's crazy.
Yeah,
It's,
like
it's
I just
crazy that you're saying butt fuck too. Like that's the language is wild to describe that because it's like okay, I guess.
but like that, I'm saying that for a reason though, because correct me if I'm wrong. Well, I don't know if it's the same in the Navy, but the amount of, at least Marines, I think I just know a lot of Marines, and there is definitely a lot of homoeroticism in that. That's
Yo,
probably
the
why
military
I
is gay
said
as
butt
shit.
fucking.
The
Huh?
military, all the branches are pretty homoerotic. All of them.
It's kind of funny though.
The
Not
Navy's
to.
got the reputation for being the gayest though, which I had no clue until I got into the Navy, and they were like, "Yeah."
Really? You didn't hear that before that?
I didn't know the Navy was the gay branch.
That's kind of hilarious because like ever since I saw YMCA growing up.
Hey, look, I heard no, listen, I heard the YMCA song, but I never saw the music video, and I was like, "Whoa, that shit is gay as hell." It's like no wonder why they get, no wonder why they took that song and kind of made it like the gay anthem. It's like it's a really creepy song when you think about it. It's like okay, that came out in the
Yeah.
'70s, right? It was a weird time in America, and like I said, I heard the song plenty of times, but I never saw the music video. And then when I saw the video, I was like, okay, that's pretty wild. But then you get into the Navy and you get the reputation, or you see it because it's like the reputation that the Navy has. But all the branches got weird gay shit on the internet. Like there's plenty of Marine videos or Army videos of them doing weird stuff.
That's why even though I'm not a vet, because I grew up with military peoples and I grew up with people who end up going in the military and are vets, military shit and all that has always been very familiar to me, which is why I was drawn into it. But the vet TV, which I've definitely sent you before, I find military humor fucking hilarious, even though it can be exceedingly dark,
Oh, it's
or
nothing
at
like
times unbelievably dark and homoerotic, or something else, or things that is just like, nah, you can't just show this to anybody because they're gonna be like, oh my god, this is horrific. But
yeah,
you
it's not.
watch some of those videos and you're like, nah, you don't make jokes like the reason why you do this is because it's a coping mechanism, at least for some people, to just joke about and say whatever it is because you are doing shit that is crazy. There are people who have definitely had to do and have experienced and seen things, Navy, Marines, Army, whatever it is, that you have to find a way to process it because it's not a common experience to watch your friend blow up or watch anybody blow up, or you take your first shot and you think it's going to be like in a movie where it's just a clean through but it blows a hole through them or blows a limb off or blows their face off or something like that, and you see it. it's it's far different from the desensitization that they do in the United States, which is definitely done to help make people be like, oh no, I'll be a recruit. Yeah, it's super easy. Yeah, whatever. They'll teach me we're the best. And it's like, bro, there's no respawns. You know that, right, bro?
Yeah, a lot of people. Call of Duty definitely made people think the military is just all running around shooting people, and it's whatever, which is not true at all, right? It's so like 95% of the people in the military are never gonna have to shoot at anybody. Probably even a higher number than 95. So when they make these movies and these television shows and these video games, they're promoting the war and the violence, which is a part of the military, no question about it. But most people are never going to have to face that, like ever. You train for it, but it's never going to be part of your reality. There's the real everyday life of somebody in the Navy is so boring that they could never make a TV show about what actually happens on a ship, unless they were to get the crazy parts of your contract. That could make a good TV show. But the majority of the days is like, nah, they ain't shit really going on the ship, or even in the whatever they doing in the Army or in the Marines. It's not that interesting, so they have to hype it up.
I think it would only, well, I mean, there's definitely some shows on like Vet TV that I've seen certain episodes of that seem funny. But again, I'm somewhat without context. A lot of them are Marine focused as well. But I feel like there's definitely other branches on there, and I feel like stuff like the mundane aspects of the military, if you did a show like that, I say it would have to be done more like either a Reno 911, Tacoma FD, or Brooklyn. What is it? Brooklyn.
9.
Yeah, Brooklyn 9. Uh, Because if you did something like, or like, I guess you could do The Office, but I fucking hate that shaky zoom in fake reality shit. You could do it like that and make the mundane stuff funny by just then inserting how weird it can be at times. Like I'm sure you have way more stories than you'd want of weird experiences,
Oh
sus
yeah.
experiences, or catching things where you're just like, what in the fuck did I almost or just witness and just need to forget?
No, like if I were to get uh say 25 different episodes of like all the weird like, shit in the Navy, I could definitely do that. I could definitely give you 25 different days or experiences or some crazy shit that happened. And it could probably make good television, right? I should probably write all that down once and take names out of it. And people will definitely say, "Hey, I remember that." There's plenty of stories. There's plenty of stories that I have witnessed firsthand that I'm a part of, but there's also stories that from other people and the things that they tell me. It's just the Navy's a lot smaller than you think it is, so I could definitely make that a thing. It could be good television, but they hype it up and they make the drama in the action is what they're trying to sell. And it's funny to us because we watch it and we're like, that's not realistic, but okay. Like, I don't know if you talked about this, but did you see the Battleship movie with Rihanna?
So I heard about the Battleship movie and I was like, Battleship, like the game? And
Kinda.
I was like, okay, there's no story there at all. So I guess technically speaking, as long as you have good writers, this could be good. And then I started to see the casting, and then I watched the trailer, and I was like, nah, I'm gonna skip this one. So
Yeah,
I didn't even bother. Hell no. I try to make sure that I spend my time on media wisely because even if I'm not spending money, I'm spending my time, and my time is worth something.
yeah, and the movie's not that bad, but they put things in movies that are just like that's not accurate. That doesn't make any sense. They gave Rihanna had like 7 different jobs on the ships. Like that's not a thing. Okay, but I get it. Main character or a popular character, so they're gonna have her be important. One of the parts they had with the dude, he gets like arrested and becomes an officer. You're not gonna become a fucking officer with a criminal record, but for the sake of the movie, let him become an ensign, or I think he was like a lieutenant junior grade. It's like, yeah, this it's Hollywood. At least they had the uniform right, because there's sometimes they have the uniforms in movies, and we're just like, yo, nobody would ever wear their uniform like that. That's like you look crazy. Like you really
So like
with your uniform fucked up like that. Somebody would say, yo, you're out of uniform. And we make a joke out of it when we see somebody walk around not in uniform. But somebody will tell them
it's also a sign of somebody's being a fraud.
a fraud.
Yeah, there is I forgot the exact name for it, but like fake valor. There are people that try to do that shit and it's
Yeah,
crazy.
the stolen valor videos.
Yeah.
I've seen plenty of those, and I'm just thinking how weird it is for somebody to do that.
Like of all the things to try to take the persona of, I feel like that's perhaps the most dishonorable thing you could do is to try and say that you served and risked your life on the behalf of others and did these things when you in fact did not. And there are more than there are I guarantee, especially if you include just human history in general, an unbelievable number of untold stories of unbelievable heroism that happened that only a handful of people ever knew about.
Yeah, for sure. People jumping on grenades and shit. That's a real thing.
Yeah,
People
like
doing things,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I said people doing things like that, sacrificing themselves for their friends and family and for the country. Like that's a very real thing. And I didn't know it was as common as it actually is, because you could find so many videos on the internet of people with the stolen valor and the fake. They got the patches that we have. I don't even know some of the stuff they're not ever gonna get, like the patches and the coins that we have. But I'm like, where do they even buy this stuff or find this stuff at? But
Surplus stores, man.
I didn't even know that was the thing, bro. I was like, wait a second,
Oh yeah.
you mean to tell me somebody could go into a surplus store
and buy a police officer's uniform? How is that legal?
I honestly, I don't know, and I have never been to one, but there's been ones kind of in the areas I've lived at, and I've been like, I want to go by just to see what the fuck you have. And I've just never done so, but I want to see what the hell they have because I'm very interested. In the very least, if they have MREs that are good, I'd like to get them and just know. I'd like to
There's
know what the fuck
good
they're
M-
all eating.
Don't do it. Don't do it. I will take that back. You can find some decent MREs, maybe like some like a decent peanut butter jelly sandwich or some shit like that.
I
But
think there's like a spicy mac that's supposed to be really good too.
nah, don't do that to yourself. You'll be hating yourself 30 minutes later.
Hey, again, if I ever do something like that, it'll be like something I do for the people.
What, just to test it out, see how it is?
Yeah, just to test it out and just be like, hey, you know what? Just an additional shout out for y'all having to deal with this type of bowel movement, or whatever.
It's so I used to have this first class that would bring MREs to the ship, and we were like, "Yo, what the fuck is wrong with you? We're not even in the army. Like, we're on a ship.
We have chefs, bitch.
We have ship food, which is not that much better than MREs, but it's not that bad.
I mean, at least it's freshly cooked.
Yeah, allegedly.
I mean, it was recently freshly prepared. I'm sure they push things if necessary right to that 5th day or longer.
So, there's this thing called cranking on the ship, and it's basically helping the CSs. It's not actually called cranking. There's a real name for it. But we help the CSs prepare their meals, and we have to like basically do their job, work with them.
Cook sergeant or something?
Culinary specialist.
Okay.
So, little tip.
Would that be like
Pretty
the equivalent of like a head chef of a kitchen, and then they have different people who would be essentially their sous chefs?
I wouldn't say that. There's a head chef for like whoever is working whatever shift, but we're just there as sort of like the help, because it's a lot to prepare a meal for 300 people. So you only have so many CSs on the ship. They got to prepare breakfast first. They're like the first people on the ship every day, like 4:00 in the morning. They're coming into the ship and to make
that shit.
So on my first shift, I did it on my first shift, not my second shift, where I would go and help them cut up fruit and clean shit up and all that other stuff. So the Navy's really strict about this kind of thing because we'll have so much extra food left over that you basically got to throw it away. They're not going to let you serve this meal again or anything like that. But when you're underway, it's kind of different because what you have is what you have, and if you can't get any food shipped out to you, you got to make the best what you can.
What's the worst meal you had to eat?
The worst meal?
Yeah, like what? Like
a fucking old pork chop, which I was like, I don't even want to eat
that. Like you could tell that shit was like, yeah, no, you've been here half this month.
Yeah, so when we're on deployment or when we're underway, we have this thing called mid rats, which it's like 11:30. It's not actually at midnight, but the food is served is out there, and it's basically whatever was left over from dinner. It's still good food. People usually eat that at that time, and every time I will walk past and look at it and say, "Nah, I don't need to eat that shit." But I definitely ate a lot of mid rats. But it's just you would eat out of boredom, which is not good.
I'm sorry, did you say you definitely ate a lot of dead rats?
Mid rats, midnight rations.
Okay. No, that sounded crazy for a second. I was gonna say, there's no way it got that bad that you're eating bilge rats.
No, there's rat guards on the ship, so you never have to worry about that kind of stuff on a ship.
Y'all got cats on the ship?
Rat guards.
Yeah, cats.
No, so when the ship is tied to we're moored to a pier, I'm pretty sure you've seen it, but you never really knew what it was for. So they make like these when the line is tied to the pier, there's like these little shields, like these metal shields on the line, and it's basically so a rat can't crawl up into the ship.
I have definitely seen those. Huh.
You never see a president on the ship, which is crazy. I mean, I won't say never, because if you go down to the storage rooms, you might find something down there. It's so crazy too, because I was talking to one of my coworkers. He was in the Navy for like 15, 16 years, right? There's people who've been in the Navy longer than I have, and they just didn't experience the same things I did. And I was only in the Navy for 5 years. So remember last time we were talking about the beer day? And
Yes.
so
The crazy fucking beer day.
there's people who were like, oh, I never had a beer day. And they were in 15 years. I was like, damn, you never had a beer day? And
That's
they
fucking
did,
wild.
and they did 90 something days underway. I'm like, damn, I had basically 2 beer days for one. It was this shit.
That's crazy. And just for those who may not have heard it last time, can you refresh us on the beer day?
So after 45 consecutive days underway, you get a beer day in the Navy, which a lot of people didn't know was a thing still, or a thing at all. So I got to 112 days, 111 days. So we got basically two beers underway. I don't think the Navy's culture is as popular as the other branches, so people don't know about the Navy's things like that. I think that's a part of it. I don't know why, but it's just, I think, something I noticed. Because
It is kind of funny because the only thing that you hear about the Navy is the jokes about the Navy.
I mean, from military, we make jokes about all the other branches, but when you talk to civilians and we talk about like, they're like, oh, I never heard of that. Well, I don't know what that is. So it's like, oh, I guess it's not really common knowledge. But there's shit that they do in the Marines that we don't know about, or the Army. Because I work with some dudes in the Army, and there's things that they have like their own little subculture.
Well, I mean, out of all the branches, I would say that the Navy is the most dissimilar out of all of them.
Yeah, we're on a fucking ship. It's not like anything else.
Right, and that's entire. Not only that, but if you're not on a ship and you're in the Navy and you're underway, you're on a fucking submarine.
That's a special group of people right there too.
Now, let's talk a little bit about subs and whatnot. What do you like? So, regarding your job that you had, which it was regarding location and radar.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, so so a radar specialist would be an accurate description.
They used to call them radar men. They don't use that term anymore.
Okay, but you do have an essential role, because I do recall last time you were talking about how you'd be in meetings that had the captain and COs in it.
Yeah.
So
good time.
So being a radar specialist, or if you don't mind, I'm going to just refer to it as that. Were you ever offered, or did you ever consider, or did you ever meet anybody who did your job or the similar job on a submarine?
Oh, that's a interesting question. So most of the people who are like given submarine orders, they're like on their own special community. So that's another thing about the Navy that's different. Is there's an air Navy, a surface Navy, which is ships, and there's like the submarine Navy. So we really don't interact with these other people too much, right? I met.
There's no reason to, essentially.
You know what I'm saying, if you're on a submarine and that's your career, you're probably going to stay on a submarine for a lot of your career. But some people get moved around. So we had this one dude who was on my ship. He was an STG, sonar technician, and they took the G out. So yeah, never mind. He was on a sonar tech, and he came from the submarines, and now he's on a surface ship. And he was on the sub for like 12 years. So it's very rare for somebody to jump from.
Good Lord, aren't they don't they go underway for months at a time?
Hey man, that was his life, man.
That's crazy. I know.
I mean, they're submerged all the time, but a submarine is going to be under say 5-6 months, they'll come up, but then they'll go right back down. I could never understand how somebody could do that for so long, but it is what it is. They just passed the law that allowed women to be on the subs now. I'm pretty sure it happened like maybe a couple years ago. Now, this is a bad idea. This is a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, I'm trying to find out who's that first baby secretly born in a sub.
Bro, I don't think people understand, like, when you have women on the ship, you have to accommodate for them. So my first ship was all male, which is another crazy experience I have.
What was the crew size?
360 something, 350, 360.
Wow, that's a lot of testosterone.
And see, I mean, that's how the Navy used to be, right? All male all over the place. I was on the last all male cruise. Like, I was only in for 5 years, but there's dudes who's like, oh, I was never on an all male crew. Been in 20 something years. When you're on an all ship,
Wow.
when you're in an all male ship, the level of seriousness is different. It's not. There's still women on board, so like the female officers, but there's only like 5 of them, which is a crazy dynamic.
Right? Good God. 5 to 360.
Yeah,
And you outrank 357 or something like that. That'd be crazy.
Say it's 365 people in the entire command. It'll just be maybe 5 or 6 female officers on board, and you still have to accommodate for them, but not as much as you would on like a mixed crew. So on a submarine, it's like they're gonna have to have. There's not that much space on the sub, so it's like, damn, they're gonna have to put all the female products in there, all the shit women need underway. That's not. I mean, they'll make it work. They'll figure it out. But I just think that's dumb. It's like, damn, for like maybe 4 women on the whole ship. It's gonna be 4 women on the sub, and they're like, we gotta have all the girl shit there. All the shit that women need, they're gonna have to have it on board just to take up space for 4 women. They'll probably tell the women, just bring your own stuff, whatever you need, because we can't accommodate for you with it. We don't have that much space. So
I would think that, honestly, if you're going to open it up, don't put anybody to a sub until you have enough women for a full sub crew. Because just because of how long you're underway, I would imagine that there'd be better operation if you just separate. Because eventually one or the other is going to
realize what you just said, an all-female submarine crew.
I mean, I don't know. Have we had all-female military units? I don't think U.S. has ever done that.
That's a terrible idea. That's fucking terrible. You probably wouldn't even be able to have enough women to fill a sub. To like the entire crew be female or most of the crew. Bad dynamic. But when women check on the board onto the ship and we do our in-dock and everything like that, they tell the girls, hey, listen, when you're using your feminine hygiene products, don't flush them down the toilet. Don't do that. Guess what they do? Flush them shits down the toilet.
It's crazy because there's a handful and it's like, I know it's one of you.
No, trust. The way that the ship's plumbing is set up, I wouldn't even call it plumbing, but the sewage system or shit. When you flush certain things down the toilet, other than human waste, they're gonna the HTs have to figure this out, and they're gonna go inside there and take the shit out. Or not, and when I say shit, not like the actual shit. Like on my first ship, I was taking a piss, and my belt buckle fell off into the toilet, and I was just like, oh shit, and I just flushed it. It was a pretty bad idea. I already peed on it, so I'm not gonna reach in there and grab it. I was like, damn. But when they have to go through the sewage and the pipes and everything, they'll find tampons and all this other shit that women flush down the toilet, and they told them, don't flush this down the toilet because it messes up the whole system. This is not like, I don't even know why you would flush a tampon down the toilet, but whatever.
I mean, usually there's like a small garbage can in the bathroom, you know? Like, usually. And it's disgusting. And you should have the accountability to be like, this is technically a biohazard. I should dispose of it as such. But just work retail, and eventually you'll find out that there are plenty of women that just don't give a shit.
Oh, it's really nasty. And it's not nasty because it's like women shit. It's just nasty because this is, like you said, it's a biohazard. Like, this is your bodily fluids, and you're just gonna throw them in the hallway.
Yeah, for the record, if men had to do something similar, I would have the same fucking statement. It's disgusting. Don't do that.
You know, humans are gross. That's one thing you definitely notice when you're like around people for real. Like being on a deployment with people for 7 months, you really see people's habits, what they really, really are like, especially living around them every day. Like when you're
That's definitely enough time for people to unless they're a fucking professional at it, for their facades to break, and you really see how they are. I imagine.
definitely, you find out who washes their hands and who doesn't. You find out who eats in their rack and who doesn't. Which is just nasty to eat in your bed, right? Or it's against all the rules
Like the ship rules, or you mean rules of life?
of life.
I'm not gonna act like I've never eaten
No,
on my bed.
everybody else, I know you might a little bit on your bed. I'm talking about people who eat in their bed and just throw the bag of Doritos behind their pillows and shit like that. Like, that's just fucking insane.
Okay, yeah, that I could never. Like, I usually just use it as a seat and or table sometimes, and that's just because of my situation. I don't have an adequate table for it. You know what I mean? And I make a point to usually put like a paper towel down or some type of covering. I'm not a dirty person. I'm just being smart. You know what I mean? Work smarter, not harder. But be clean.
No, but like, so there was this dude in my division. He had like basically like a collage of all his bags of chips under his rack. So it was the weirdest, most disgusting thing I've ever seen, because it's like, bro, first off, you know you're not supposed to eat in Berlin anyway. Like, that's a rule we have. Like, you're not supposed to even eat down here. But okay, fine. You definitely have to have any open containers, open food down here. You're in your rack eating bag after bag of chips and just basically putting the bag underneath your mattress. So when they do a health and comfort inspection, and we open people's mattresses and racks and shit up, and we see all the filth inside, it's like, oh wow, you got a fucking problem. Like, who does that? Every single bag of chips you could ever think was there.
Yo, that's the same thought process behind criminals who don't think it's worth it to make sure every end is covered and they get caught. It's like, if you're gonna break the rules, empty your fucking secret stash out, because you should know that there's gonna be a fucking inspection, stupid.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to those inspections, they kind of keep that stuff on the low to surprise people, but we'll know about it. At least my people will. So we'll let other people know in like in our berth, and it's like, hey, we're probably gonna have a health and comfort inspection soon. HMC is gonna walk around here. He's gonna basically tell people, you gotta open your rack and we gotta see what's inside. And I remember this dude in my division. He was so reckless. This motherfucker had a bottle of Ciroc in his rack.
Damn, talk about some contraband.
Yeah, but like, this is not new. You know, people gonna get drunk on the boat, but at least close.
Absolutely.
If you're gonna get drunk on board, you got to put it in a bottle of Sprite or something.
So, to kind of like double back a little bit, what is considered contraband that you can recall, and which one of those are ones that you regularly recall people getting caught with?
On the ship?
On the ship or on land, if they're different, then yeah. If they're not different, then whatever.
I don't know. Most people are a lot smarter than that to be quite honest. To get like it's rare to see somebody get caught with something like that on the actual ship, because it's just like why would you bring your cocaine to the ship? Speaking of cocaine on the ship, on my first ship, the deck division, right? Wildest motherfuckers I've
Now
ever
is that like the people who are operating where the ship is going, like where you were at and shit, like the drivers, but you know what I mean, helmsman or whatever.
Well, not them either, but kinda. So so deck is basically they're in operations with us, and they do drive the ship, which sounds like a stupid thing to say, but yeah, they're on the helm or the lee helm, and their berthing was below ours. And like I said, the wildest motherfuckers I've ever met in my life. These are the dudes who really were like, I guess I'll join the Navy. It beats going to jail, right?
Okay.
Like, it's better than doing 5 years in jail, right?
Let's
And
bring
bro,
them on and drive a $1 billion vessel.
bro, I'm not even saying that's a joke. There's people who say, fuck it, bro. I'd rather do 4 years in the Navy than 4 years in jail. Or 4 years in...
That's an offer that's made in court sometimes, is it not?
Yeah, it's not as common as it used to be, but I met a AM1 aviation mechanic who was in for like probably 17, 18 years maybe. And he said he was offered that. That's why he's in the Navy. But you don't see it too often anymore. But there's still some people who was like, instead of going to jail for 2 years, they'll put you back in the Army because you were already in the Army. That happened recently with some dude in like Kentucky where he definitely broke the law. His ass should have went to jail. But the judge just said, we'll just send you back to your fucking command. But those dudes,
why they don't do that as much anymore, considering they need to recruit.
Because you can't have the military full of fucking criminals. It really
True.
Like some of the dudes, they go to jail, and it's not like they're real serious, crazy criminals. But when you put them people in the military, it's like, yeah, you have to do certain things the right way. So it's like, hey, you can't get drunk and fight people at the bar, but they don't give a shit. So we go out with these people, and when you're new to a ship, you don't really know people and how they get down. But you find out very quick. It's like, oh, people are just loudmouths and they act tough and they talk crazy. Some people are really crazy like that. And you'll find out quickly who it is. So when I was talking about cocaine, I went down to their berthing once, and it's like a fucking, it's like a college dorm with the way those dudes act. And there's cocaine on the table. Like they would do lines in berthing. And it would be just all that crazy shit. And we would basically just let, this is what they do, man. We can't, like, we don't know who it is. We can't point fingers, which I wouldn't do that anyway. I don't really care that much to be like, hey, they're doing good.
If someone's as brazen enough to do it like that, you probably don't want to bring it up.
They don't care anyway. It's like, what they're gonna do? Kick me out the Navy?
Right? Who's gonna drive the ship to Malaysia, bitch?
If anything, they would be happy with being kicked out or separated. But the military plays that game where, like, oh, if you fail a drug test, they're gonna separate you. That's not always true.
Especially since it only takes a couple days for cocaine to be out your system. So if you know you got to leave for a couple days, you can do cocaine as soon as you off and be good when you come back.
But yeah, man, I used to be down in that berthing doing coke, lighting shit on fire and just leaving. That was another. They were reckless. Like they would light books on fire and just leave the berthing.
How? Y'all don't have security cameras, or like how the fuck do you just do that?
There's no security cameras, especially in the berthing. Like this is where we live and sleep and shit.
That's kind of like, I'm glad in the sense that there is some privacy for you when you're in the military, but at the same time, it also seems funny that like it'd be known enough that like in some common-ish place of this dormitory area, shit be going down, and it's just like, well, Nobody's talking. We're not gonna put cameras in there. Like, what the fuck you want me to do? It burned down. We don't know who did it. We need a new one.
I mean, I don't think they ever really did anything to put people's lives in danger. They just were reckless and didn't give a shit. And the way the Navy does people, when you get a reputation or if you do something wrong, you really never come back from that. It's not fair because there's people who say, yo, you made a mistake. Some people make mistakes over and over and over again, so you know what that's really about. But you got people who say, I made a mistake. I didn't know any better. I was young. And people in the command will be like, nah, when we're not fucking with that guy, we don't hang out with that person or shit like that. Because I had a lot of reckless motherfuckers in my division too. Never reckless like that, but they were still pretty reckless people.
Is it very cliquish?
Yeah, I mean it kind of has to be, but it's not. It's not that bad when it comes to the click thing. When it comes to like, oh, you can hang out with people in other rates and other divisions, but it's not really acceptable if they're like the engineers. The engineers are fucking weirdos, bro. They're definitely by far the weirdest people.
Like weeaboo weird?
You said like weeb weird?
Weeaboo? Yeah, like that weird?
Mm. No, that's like pretty much that the anime nerd type of dudes. That's more or less like the tech geek kind of guys on the ship, which you can find all over the place. But the engineers are weird about the cliquish thing, and it's not really their fault because so back in the day on the ship, the engineers weren't allowed to eat with the other people on the command because they would be so
fucked.
No, it makes perfectly good sense. Let me get to it. The engineers, they get dirty as hell. So when they would go to the line to eat, they would be telling them, "Hey, we ain't even gonna serve you food until you get clean coveralls on." That's a rule. Like if you come through the line to try to eat lunch and you're dirty, you can't eat. The CSS would be like, "Nah, I'm not gonna let you come through the line with paint all over your coveralls or all dirty and shit." And it's been that way for a long time. So the engineers have a certain part where they sit on the mess decks to eat, and you're not supposed to sit there unless you're an engineer. And like when we say this is it's some real cliquish high school girl shit, but there's a reason and a history behind it. So I don't know what they get taught in engineering school, what the NDoc is like for them in A school and C school and shit like that. But those people really look at us like, nah, we can't fuck with you. You a topsider. That's what they call us. I was like, wait,
I mean that does make sense, sort of. I mean, like, because if you think about back to like those who were on the bottoms of ships at the time, they definitely were required, and it was definitely dirty as fuck with all the oil and the things that were required to power the ship. But as things have changed, so have the engines, and so has the complications. And engineering, generally speaking, if you talk about being in engineering, then it's implied that you understand mathematics well, and you understand builds and construction and uh, I want to say planograms, not planograms, but like what's it called? Diagrams of things, and you're able to read them, and you understand that language. And now I feel they probably have a sense of, well, before we were just kind of like grunts in there coming up dirty, but now if you don't have us, there's nobody else on the ship that's going to be able to fix this thing. And so we're going to take pride in what was once kind of a place of shame, and we're going to make sure that you don't tread on that because you are not a part of the ship history that involves this type of discrimination. Even though it makes sense not to have somebody who's covered in oil or paint or something like that in line, at the same time, if you're covered in oil and paint because some shit went down and you just were up for 18 hours and you don't have any fucking coveralls because another set was completely covered, and it's like, we're not going to give you food until you have clean ones. It's like, I don't have any fucking clothes. Can you just give me some food? And I'm sure that probably happened once or twice, something like that. And that's probably still told within those ranks, and they hold on to that despite the fact nobody else in other rankings even having any idea about it.
No, that's a part of it. I mean, the way it works on the ship, like you've been working all day in the bilges and shit. You're dirty. You can get new coveralls on, and be very clear. This is not like the '60s and the '50s when this thing was like a really big deal. There's still plenty of time for you to change, and if you go through the line, you got a little bit of dirt on you, a little bit of oil. It's not that big a deal. Most people, if they're really, really dirty, they're gonna have to put new clothes on anyway. And like you were saying, how about there's a lot of pride in their culture. That's definitely a thing I noticed when it came to the engineers. They were very, very proud that they were engineers. I'd have to tell them, it's like, yo, I know you got brainwashed and indoctrinated to think you were like something better or special because you're an engineer, but that's really not the case. Like I get it. Be proud of your engineer culture. We would talk about these kinds of things like A school and C school. And I was like, what are you guys learning to act this way when you get to the ship? It's weird because they're normal people in boot camp with you for the most part. But when they get there, they're like, nah, I'm the snipe. That's what they call them. The top snipe would be the top engineer on the ship. And usually,
Why do they call him a snipe?
why do you mean why do they call him snipe? Like the acronym? Or
I didn't even realize it was an acronym because when I think of military and I hear snipe, I automatically think sniper.
mm-hmm. Well, oh god, I really didn't want to get into engineer history with you.
I'm sorry.
No. I mean,
serious,
it's good. Just like fucking engineers, but cool. So it's like you were saying. You don't think of engineers as or snipe as engineers. It's basically for like their accuracy and precision. So it's similar, but these people they
real quick. Essentially, they call him a snipe because I'm guessing they are either really, really good at the particular job to where they're efficient, which is definitely critical, and or they're veterans and therefore they're able to direct and guide others to make them more accurate as well.
Yeah, pretty much. Like
okay, so it's not like a real designation. It's like it could be anybody, relatively speaking, regardless of rank.
No.
Okay, so it's going to be rank related somewhat.
I won't say. I mean, when we say the top snipe, that's usually going to be a senior chief or a chief on the ship. But the engineers were all called snipes anyway.
Gotcha. Okay.
Which is weird because they don't really use it. They don't use that kind of like lingo that much anymore. But it's definitely a thing when they speak on it and how they do their job. But they're cliquish for a particular reason. But it's really like that anyway. Where if you're not sitting with your division, other people look at you and say, "So what you doing sitting over there?" Like if you're not sitting with people in your department, people will be like, "So what you doing sitting over there?" Like you have to sit with weapons if you're in weapons department. You have to sit with your engineering department.
Now, for like most jobs, is there essentially as many as you need to cover the shifts that there are? So we're like essentially 2 of your position on the ship?
Way more than that.
So how did that work? Because you think of like your regular like day-to-day life of if you come like for me, I'm the full-timer and then we have a part-timer. I fill in most days and then I have somebody who covers my days off. Or do you have like days off type of a thing or like how does that kind of work? How does that dynamic work?
Well, you have the weekend off, depending on if you have duty or not. But when it comes to a particular job in the watch stations and the rotations, my division, so a OI division on a ship would usually have like maybe 20 to 30 people in it. You would want to have the more people you have qualified, the easier watches will be. But it's like that for pretty much every single division or department on the ship, except the smaller ones. So I don't know, pick a job on the boat. They're gonna have to rotate. You got to have at least a certain amount of people qualified for the jobs to actually, maintain themselves.
So real quick, is a watch and or rotation essentially what you refer to as like your shift, and there needs to be enough shifts to cover that position 24/7?
Yeah, essentially, but it's kind of different because when I'm done with watch, I still have other jobs to do. I'm not ever really done with my job when you're on the ship. So my main job when we're underway is to take care of my underway responsibilities and navigate and all the other shit. But when I'm done with watch, I still have other things I have to do on the ship, which most people don't know. And this is like it's kind of common sense to me now, but you don't really matter in the Navy at all, really, until you make E5 or until you get an NEC. And it's like for the people who are E1 to E4, your primary job is maintenance. To be maintenance person qualified is the most important thing for you, really, for everybody on the ship. But for the younger sailors, it's like, did you get 3M yet? Because they
What does that mean?
like 3M,
Yeah.
like the maintenance, the three. You're familiar. You know 3M, like the actual brand and shit. But every job has maintenance required that has to be done daily. Well, I won't say routinely. Well, there's different levels of maintenance. But that's the number one job for you on the ship as a sailor, because the ship has to be able to maintain and survive. But on top of that job, you have your actual rate job, which everybody has, right? But that shit is not that important, to be quite honest. It's more important that you get qualified in all these other things before learning your actual job, which is so ass backwards, but that's the military for you.
So you would go up, you would do your. So how long would you be like navigating, like in a day? Like how much time would that take up of your day?
Um, so depending on how many people are qualified in the division, you could have a watch that's 4 hours or 6 hours or 5. It fluctuates. But once you're done with your watch, you might have maintenance checks you have to do. And I didn't have a job that was that maintenance heavy. It was really simple maintenance. But then there's people who are like a gunner's mate. They got to do hella maintenance on all the guns and the 5-inch, all that other shit. And they still have to sometimes stay and watch. Or the like deck. The deck department, their maintenance is basically the whole fucking ship, especially the forecastle. But really everything on the boat will be maintenance deck for deck. There's a lot of things that they have to do. But on top of that, they still have to stand and watch as a lookout.
So have you ever served on a carrier?
Fuck no.
No, I'm definitely curious as to why your response is fuck no.
Because that's an awful life to live.
Really?
Well, personally, I know people who were OSs on carriers and they're like, it's really easy because there's so many of us. But I went to an LPD or LHD, which is a little bit bigger than a cruiser or a destroyer. And I'll tell you right now, there's so much shit going on. There's so much shit moving around. It's kind of overwhelming. And I didn't like it. I just went to visit, just to take a tour and shit. Or to talk to somebody over there. And I'm like, yeah, I could never live here. Like, I get lost every single day. Like, I don't want to do this. This is not interesting. This is not fun. I could just
Still like super cramped.
probably. Like, a carrier got thousands of people on it. Like, I'm good with that.
Really? I didn't realize there's thousands of people on there like that.
Like a
I
little.
thought like maybe 1,000. I didn't realize thousands.
I don't think you know how big them bitches are until you actually sit next to one, or you see how big they are on the pier. And so when we went to what country were we in? I want to say we were in somewhere in the Pacific. I can't remember. Maybe Singapore. And the carrier was with us, which sucks because when you go on deployment, you want to just have like your own port visit to yourself. But when the carrier comes there, it's like a whole little town with you. So we have to wait.
Ship.
What'd you say?
Like a big old Disney cruise ship coming through.
Basically. And you will see the line of people getting off the ship. And bro, it's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people in this big ass line holding everything up, causing all this traffic. And you know somebody's gonna get in trouble. This is the worst part about being in a pier or on a port area.
Just ratios promises that.
That's what one of my OS1s was saying. He was like, this is why you don't want to be around the carriers, because somebody on that boat is going to get arrested. Somebody on that boat is going to violate liberty. And now we all getting punished for it, or we all have to worry about it, because when you go to a place and the restrictions is cool, it's not that crazy because nothing happened yet. But when one of the carriers comes in, motherfucker get drunk. A whole bunch of people going to get drunk. We already know that. But now you're going to have people getting in fights. You have people beat up locals. It's just like, nah, keep the carriers away from me. I'm good. And they always say it's better for you to go to learn your job on a smaller ship, because you're going to need to do more. You don't need to do, for at least for me, but really for everybody, because you're going to become a better skilled sailor on a smaller boat than you are on a big ass boat. Or
you're going to be required to do your job more often, so that makes sense.
You have to, especially once you get more rank and you get qualified in things. You're going to have to know how to do these things. Whereas on a carrier, you could just be like, yeah, it don't really matter. It's like it's 100 people in my job. I don't even know how many people they have for OI, but they probably have, I would assume, way more than just a regular ship.
So comparatively to that, what was the largest ship that you served on?
Well, I've only ever served on what they call them small boys. So like cruisers and destroyers.
So those would be like the 2 and 3 piece units on Battleship.
I have no fucking Battleship.
I know the cruisers are at least the 3 piece, because the battleships were 4, and then I think the cruisers were 5. But
You know what I mean?
my dad had one back in the day that had like electronic reactions, and it would make noises when you got a hit because it could sense where you put the pieces. So if you were on the other side and you called out, you couldn't bullshit and lie on the other side, because it would make a hit noise or it would make a miss noise. It was fucking dope. But anyway, do you happen to know the size of a crew on like a sub, or like the smallest sub? Because I know there's different classes. Not all of them are like nuclear class.
A sub definitely less a cruiser. People, if that.
So like maybe 100.
Maybe half the size of a destroyer.
And how much is that?
51. I'm not sure.
Really?
It could only fit so much space, so many people on a sub. If even 100. Because you got to understand, you still got the people, but the things that people need and all the equipment. So they're not going to have that many people.
Right. I kind of would figure that it would have to be under 100 for sure. I would think an optimal crew size would be more around like 30 to 40 something, just because of efficiency. The problem is how much demand you're putting on the individual as a person.
Bigger sub, more people. But I don't know what they have.
Did you ever? No, I know you mentioned you had met like a sonar specialist. Have you ever met anybody else who worked on a sub, or anybody that told you about some shit that they experienced? Because I know that's a whole nother. That's just a whole nother world in general, let alone serving in the military in a fucking giant tube with or without nuclear weapons. You're not coming up from essentially potential death all around you. And your navigator needs to make sure that they don't crash into what are essentially mountains, because you're flying at this point. You're flying through the water, and you're trying not to hit mountains and shit like that. You know what I mean?
We said trying not to hit mountains.
I mean, if you think about it, like if you're going through the water and like it's not open sea, there's like some elevations wherever you are, how deep you are. And you can think of it as just a trench, or you can think of it as mountains that are raising up, and you're flying through those mountains as a submarine. You're just underwater. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's an interesting way to look at it. Most of the people I met on the subs are usually, well, they know about the subs are usually sonar techs, because that's like obviously the communities are related. But I don't know, it's a whole different aspect of the Navy. Like, I can't give you too much information on submarine life or air department life. The air detachment is like the people who they join the Navy and they're on the air side, so they're like aviation mechanics, and they're only on the ship for deployment. That's it. Other than that, they're somewhere fixing a helicopter, chilling in San Diego. They're not really they're in the Navy, but they'll never be on a ship unless the ship goes on deployment.
I wonder if that's why they went there instead of the Air Force. Because like, why wouldn't you just go to the Air Force?
I don't know. The Air Force is fucking lame.
Are you saying that as a Navy person, or because you have reasons to actually just know that it's lame?
Yes.
Yeah, because most of the time when I see people say that, and it'll be followed, like, at least on the internet, with like, your PT was essentially like standing up, and you guys live in mansions and eat lobster comparatively to other people. It's like, well, I mean, why didn't you go and do that then? I just I illuminate me onto why the hate is justified.
Well, there's nothing the Air Force does that like the other branches really can't do, especially when it comes to like flying shit, right? It's called the Air Force, but think about, the Top Gun fucking just came out, Top Gun 2. That movie is about what? Flying jets and shit, right?
Yeah,
They're
aren't they
the
Navy
Navy.
pilots?
What'd you say?
Aren't they Navy pilots?
Exactly. That's the point. The Air Force is not even known for flying, and the top flying people in the military are Navy pilots. So when we say these things, it's not all hate, but at the same time, it's like, what are they really doing I don't even understand how the wait to get into the Air Force would be 8 months. That's what people in the Air Force would be like, yeah, I had to wait 6 months to get into the Air Force. I'm like, what the fuck are they even doing? The Navy is known for the people for the pilots. The carriers have basically the best pilots in the fucking military, and they're on naval vessels.
I did not realize that.
I was like, how you not realize that?
Because I would assume that the best pilots are near like the most important assets. And I guess at the end of the day, it would make sense strategically for your best pilots to be with your warships, not necessarily your specialized ships. Or I don't know why I'm calling them ships, planes, jets, whatever. Like, yeah. I would like to think that you have a couple in Area 51 for your experimental shit, and that's where your best go. But you're not necessarily going to want to keep your best there. You're going to want them to be tip-top shape running drills, so that way they're ready to go.
Ain't shit going on in Area 51. They don't fool people with that.
Well, wherever. We'll put that in quotes. Wherever they are, like, doing their weapons testing. Because regardless of whether you follow conspiracies or not, the military does weapons testing. That's just 1,000% fact. They do that.
No, that's definitely a fact. But I'm saying the whole where are they gonna have their valuable assets and all this other stuff. They're all over the country, all over the place. But yeah, man,
It's probably far
you think
more
of
Cheyenne Mountain, you know.
when you think of top pilots, you're not thinking of people in the Air Force. And this is not the shit on the Air Force. Like we could shit on them for just being lazy and playing golf all day, right? That's a stereotype.
Yeah, like I was gonna say, that's what you usually hear.
What'd you say?
That's what you usually hear. Is like they're that's their hardest part of their day is like, yeah, I missed par several times. It was fucking brutal.
Bro, that's all we hear about them. I don't even know how true it is. I'm pretty sure there's some validity to it. But how I didn't even know this until I was in the Navy that the military assets, or I should say the Air Force assets, and the amount of planes and jets and choppers they have still doesn't even compare to the Navy. The Navy has more air fucking units and everything than the Air Force has. I don't understand how that's a thing or why that's a thing, but that's just the way it is. So I look at their job and say, damn, I wonder what they actually do. If all the pilots are in the Navy, and I'm talking to pilots all the time for my job, I see pilots in the choppers all the time, especially depending on what kind of ship you're on. But even on a smaller ship, they still have an air detachment, which is going back to that. That's like a whole different part of the Navy. And when I found out what the Air Navy was, I was like, damn, I should have did that. They were cool. But then again, that job is hard. Like, their job is basically to make sure that chopper is working all day, every day.
Yeah, that's an expensive asset.
Yeah, and you can't mess that shit up. You fuck around and kill somebody if you do something wrong.
Yeah, it's definitely a whole nother level for sure. It's kind of funny because I remember like when I was looking at the end of the day, I was like, I think I'll go Air Force because I was thinking I want to have a family, and that seemed like the easiest military job to do that. And I remember looking at
Why would you just have a family?
because of how simple it looked to have a job, like because of what you said, because there's memes about the fact that you play. If I can fucking play golf, so I remember when I was looking really heavy, I went to the Air Force website, and they had a like this interactive 3D base setup interaction of like a base where people lived and examples of shit of what you can find on Air Force bases. And then like one of the things they had was like, yeah, if you have like a fucking car, we have mechanics here on base specifically trained to be able to like fix all your shit for free as part of being here. And if you got the time, we'll fucking show you how to do it. And I'm just like, geez, like you got fucking daycare on deck, you got this, you got I mean, and you'll pay me a lot because that angle I was looking at, like, I wasn't gonna go no fucking bullshit, you know. I was like, this could be solid, but at the end of the day, including what I mentioned earlier, there was just stuff I was like, that's just not the way I'm trying to go.
Yeah, I don't know. But like you family and name and daycare is too. One of one of my chiefs used to say, if the military wanted you to have a family, they would have put it in your fucking sea bag for you, which is crazy. It was all about his family. Like he had a wife and kids, and he would always, speak on them and how much he loved his family and shit. And he actually, and a lot of people talk that shit about how much they love their family, but they just say that they don't really care to do things for their family. But he actually did. But it was a joke he would tell us, because there's people who get into the military and it's like, oh man, I got to take care of this, I got to take care of that. It's like, bro, that's really not your primary responsibility now is the ship. It sounds crazy, but you signed up for this. You can be talking about your fucking wife and kids. Go away, right?
Yeah, like that's why, like with the Navy, I was like, nah, if I was gonna go Navy, like I initially thought Navy, and then as I got older, I was like, nah, I don't really like the ocean like that, and plus, I have to be fine with just going wherever the fuck like that, which you have to be fine with in general in the military, but depending what job you have, you can kind of zone in on certain areas. And if I was gonna go, I was going to play the game. That was also a decision I had to make. Was I willing to play the game? Because if I was gonna go, I was gonna fucking go for a career, and I wasn't just gonna go for a stint. That's why like it took me years to make a decision, and I finally decided, like I guess I don't know, 5 years ago, that I just wasn't going to do that.
Hey man, if you want to start a family, you could do it in any branch. It's crazy too because I know a lot of dudes who got, in the military and they got a wife and kids. Sometimes I know dudes whose wives are in the military too, which is a really interesting dynamic. But you can take care of your family and be in the military and get military housing and live a pretty decent life. I understand people not joining the military and be like, no, I don't want to do it. Like every time you say that about how you thought better of it and you say I chose not to do that, it's like, yeah, I completely understand it. I completely understand somebody saying, nah, that life ain't the life for me. But I also understand the flip side of it when people say, fuck, what else am I going to do? Might as well join the Navy, which a lot of people really didn't think that one ahead. I'll tell you right now, I didn't. Well, people always say, well, you know what you signed up for, right? No, you really don't. You really don't know what you're signing up for. And no amount of research could really show you what you're going to sign up for. You don't really know. And people,
to be fair, the one thing that I can't believe didn't benefit to you is the fact that you had a degree.
oh well, I got hustled by a recruiter, and fuck it.
When did you find out about that? Was it like immediate, or did you find out down the road, like 2 years in, somebody was like, "Wait, you have a degree? What the fuck are you doing here?"
I found out when I would talk to my divisional officer, and they were like, "Oh, you have a degree?" They would be like, "So why are you not an officer? Did you get some legal trouble? Did you go to jail? You get arrested?" People usually assume the worst, right? They usually
You just a nigga? It's like, excuse me, sir. I know that you outrank me.
we would shit on some of these divos. Oh, especially
Word.
we call them butters.
I'm sorry, you call him what?
Butter bars because they have like a gold collar device.
Oh, is that where that comes from? Because I've definitely heard that before.
And some of them are cool, right? But the thing is, when you're a devil, you come to a ship, you have to know your place, and you don't really know shit at all about the Navy. But you have higher rank than your chief. The good devils say, "Hey, chief, this is your division. I'm gonna let you run it, and I'm just gonna shut the fuck up." You have other ones who try to like impose their will and stuff, and we're just like, yo, we're just laughing at you, like, yo, you don't know what you're talking about. You have no idea what's going on right now.
Oh, so like in the sense of this dynamic, the warrant would essentially be an NCO of high rank, but because this low level CO outranks them technically, most just goad on that as opposed to acknowledging the fact that they are outranked in experience.
Well, you say warrant, chief warrant officer is that motherfucker outrank pretty much everybody on the boat.
Well, I thought I heard you say warrant, because I know chief warrant officer is kind of like a unicorn and rare.
Yeah, they're fucking amazing. But it depending on what level. So CWO2 and CWO3, you see those a lot more, but like CWO4, that I might have seen like 2 of those motherfuckers in real life. I don't know if there's any more than that. There might be.
I remember a couple months ago randomly hearing about that, like it was a rare rating, and I went on YouTube to like look up a couple of different I don't know if there's a CW5, but I definitely looked up to see
It
some
goes
who the highest are.
there's like people in the history of the Navy that got that high.
Yeah, no, I remember looking into it. They're like, no, there's like you can count on like your hand how many are out this ranking, and if you see them, if you are smart enough to know better, you just shut the fuck up. Because I think I came across it in the sense that there was some chief warrant officer that literally just did whatever they wanted against people who technically outranked them, but they knew what they were.
Yeah, so the triad in the chain of command is COXOCMC. but your chief warrant is probably number 4 or 5. Yeah, I'll say 4. But chief warrant probably been in longer than all of those other people. Almost always, that's the case. Like chief warrant,
Even like a low-level chief warrant.
You're not gonna make chief warrant without being in for a minute.
So, just to help the junkers and those who may be listening, could you give us a little description of what a chief warrant is and why they're considered such a rarity?
A fucking legend. That's what they are. So, what happens is, for a lot of people who join the military and they're enlisted, and they make chief, you could either, and I see this happen a lot. A lot of chiefs make chief, and they want to go to officer side. So they'll have to basically kind of start over being an ensign. And we make fun of them for that. Well, I don't. They do. They're like, oh, you decided to leave the chief's mess and you want to jump ship and be a fucking, an officer. All right. You basically a traitor to the chief's mess now. Like, you work all them years to make chief, and now you want to be an officer. There's like a special program you put your chief warrant package in when you are a chief, to be like this sort of special, unique thing that makes chief warrants whatever they are. They're not they're officers for sure, but they're not officers like the way the other officers are officers, and they're not chiefs either. They're chiefs.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So one thing about the Navy that's interesting too is when you make the rank at E7. There's like other branches, E7 is cool or whatever, but it's not the same thing as making chief. Making chief is a very big deal in the Navy. And in order for once you make chief, you can't lose it. You need an act of Congress for you to lose that title of being a chief. Go look at that.
Shout out to Spartan 117.
Yeah. So chiefs are pretty special. Chief warrants are even more special. And for you to make chief warrant, you got to be in 20 something years, maybe even 30. I knew some chief warrants who, like, they hated being in the wardroom. This is where the officers go. And they would come down to the mess decks and sit with us sometimes and be like, bro, I really miss being around like enlisted people. Because you guys are, in comparison to what the officer community is like, the enlisted community is normal people. And I can tell you right now, we are far from normal on the mess decks. Far from like I remember when I say it was Christmas or Thanksgiving, right? And our captain brought his family on board, and you know how they try to do like the PR thing and take pictures and shit. So on holidays, you're usually not supposed to work. We have this thing called holiday routine in the military or in the Navy where you're just chilling on the holidays. That doesn't really exist that much. You're gonna work today. We're gonna paint some shit. We're gonna do something. But our captain brought his family on board. And we had to look at each other and say, all right, guys, we can't say the crazy shit we say when this dude brings his fucking 5-year-old on the boat. We have to act like normal people again.
I remember.
That's what it's so uncomfortable when you're used to like talking a certain way, and then it's like, oh, it's little kids around. Let us not be so vulgar. They'll be going in an hour.
LOL at sailor talk.
Yeah, like we can't really curse like sailors when there's kids around. We got enough sense to not do that.
You got to tone the cunts down.
I remember getting out the Navy and saying, "Damn, I'm not gonna be able to like talk to people with my job the way I talk to them here." Bro, you know how crazy it is for me to not just curse at people when they do dumb things at my job. I'm like, in the Navy, I could say you're a fucking idiot to pretty much anybody. Well, almost anybody. I can't do that anymore. Or you know the penis game, right? Where people
yes, I do.
So we're eating breakfast, we're eating lunch, and somebody we'll see, and it's usually like, I don't know, weapons guys would always do this. They'll whisper penis towards each other, and they get louder and louder, and everybody takes part and yells it out, and it's like, yo, you'll never have another job where that's acceptable behavior. Like a chief will walk by,
like while you're on watch or like in the mess?
In the mess.
Okay, I was gonna say, damn, that's some McHale's Navy shit.
Now you don't do that on watch because, especially when I'm on watch, I'm in combat. That's which is the name of the space, not actual combat. I'm in CIC, and I have lieutenant commanders in here, or the captain comes in CIC all the time.
Just walks in and hears penis.
Yeah, you don't do that. This is where we have to maintain professionalism and military bearing a little.
I mean,
We
hey,
can't act like
you
crazy.
can't get fat no more. You know, maybe this is a way out.
Yeah, we can't act like crazy people when the captain comes into combat, or even when other officers are in combat. Because the watch commander is going to be at least a lieutenant. At the very least, this is like the lieutenant's jobs on the ships. For us to, they basically know everything that's going on when we're going underway. So we have
captain's eyes and ears, essentially.
Essentially, yeah, that's the good way to put it. And the captain walks around the boat. It's his ship. He goes wherever he wants to go, and you know where he's when he's coming in. You got to say, "All right, guys, we can't laugh. We can't tell jokes. Like you could tell jokes and stuff like that, but you can't just be too loud." I remember this one time we were laughing because we were porting starboard on watch, which means 6 on, 6 off. We were porting starboard, so we had so many people on the watch team that we're kind of bored just sitting there because it's like, damn, we all don't need to be in here, but so we're all joking around and laughing and shit. And this ensign came over and he was like, "Hey guys, is everything okay?" And we were like, "The fuck you talking about? Is everything okay?" Because we're laughing. We're just laughing, telling jokes. And he's like, "Is everything all right over here?" And it confused us because we were like, "What? Why wouldn't everything be all right over here? What are you trying to say?" So I guess we were being a little too loud. You know how niggas get with the funny shit. Niggas telling jokes and it's not cool because I don't know. We were loud.
Eventually, you know, you lose the relatability, and it's just like, no, I can't laugh too internally, so I have to.
No, but see, when the ensign comes over and says that, we're gonna be like, "Sir, the fuck are you talking about? Of course, everything. Go to your watch. We don't need your help over here." This is another thing that will happen is, like we talking about the ensigns, they don't know our job. And I'm not saying not to knock them because it's really tough to be an officer in the Navy, especially an ensign. They have to learn literally everything. I'm not exaggerating when I say everything. Every single department, the ensigns basically have to do like little shadow jobs for. So they go to
So
they go to operations.
To clarify real quick, an ensign bottom rank level of officer level in Navy.
Yeah, 01.
Okay, so and their job essentially, because if you go up, essentially what you're doing through all these ranks are training yourself to be a captain or beyond. And in order to do so, going back to what you were saying about being a captain, he just goes around the ship and will just inspect or do whatever the fuck he wants. But the reason why is because he spent all these years since he was an ensign learning these jobs, despite not necessarily spending the same dedicated time as a specialist would, which is why they would use specialist as a name. But they know well enough to where they can make calls on it and utilize the knowledge of those who are experts to make calls as a whole, because an expert is only as good as the rest of the ship. Going back to the engineers.
Mm-hmm. And it's tough because for say a couple months they got to work with supply and they got to learn the supply officer's job or what supply officer is doing. And then they switched and they work with engineering and they switch and they work with operations. So they have to really learn these things and be thorough with them. But sometimes these people get full of themselves, a lot of times. And we had this one female officer try to like tell us how to do mo boards. A mo board is a maneuvering board that we have to use in my job to help navigate the ship. I'll explain that to you in detail some other time. It's not complicated, but it's complicated. Now, when I say this is our job, this is one of the most important aspects of my job. This is shit that I know how to do. Pretty much.
Can I take a stab at what it is?
Go for it.
So going off of the idea that it's one of the most basic things that you need to do, and you have to do with navigation, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So I would take that this job has to do with course setting and perhaps calculating the proper position of the ship such that you're going to get your heading the way you need, and perhaps taking into account environmental and like water statistics to account for the most accurate course that will get you to where you need to be in the quickest time.
You smart motherfucker. Now, see, everything you said was pretty accurate description for somebody who have no idea. That's really good.
Thank you.
You have to add the math aspect to it, right?
Okay.
We have to do the math for this bitch. And there's different types of mold boards. So she's trying to tell us, like, we taught her how to do these things. She's telling us we doing them wrong. It's like, man,
Hilarious.
ma'am, I went to school for these. I went to school for learning how to do these for a little bit of time. You know what? Let her have it. Because realistically, you're going to lose that conversation if you argue with an officer.
Also, does the fault also fall on the officer at that point?
What do you mean the fault falls on her? Usually him does.
Well, I mean, like, if you're making what you know to be an accurate setting, and then the officer above you is like, no, that's incorrect, you need to do this adjustment, and then regardless of your retort, they end up being wrong.
On the ship, I'm not navigating like the navigator is. Like, Nav is on the bridge actually navigating the ship. We give him or her course speed recommendations.
You're like literal cartographers in the moment.
We say again?
You're like cartographers in the moment.
Precisely. I wouldn't give us that much credit, but okay. But we tell Nav, hey, listen, there's a contact here or here. This is the best course and speed to avoid getting hit. Nav says, okay, we'll do that. If they don't like that, they don't do it. So Nav is usually pretty thorough, but like a lieutenant junior grade will try to act like, well, there's some good lieutenant junior grade Navs I've met, but an ensign will be like, no, I think we should do this. It's like, your opinion doesn't matter on this, but they're an officer, so we kind of have to say, all right, what does Diva want, or what does whoever want? But it's always up to the Nav on the bridge or QMC. But usually Nav and QMC will work together on the bridge too with the rest of the team.
Is Nav a officer position?
Yes. The
Okay.
lead
Is everything up in that area officer?
not everything. Like when you're on the bridge, I'll put it like this: the navigator is obviously always going to be an officer, but the con and the helm or lee helm, the conning officer is obviously the officer. I'll get into a story about that later or next. But the people who are actually driving the boat are enlisted. I learned how to drive the boat once. It was a really crazy experience.
Really?
Yeah, it's crazy. So the way it works is the only people who actually get behind the helm on the boat is deck. This is like Navy history, culture, and shit, right?
So I have to say real quick, this is 3 things that you've brought up that you've only served 5 years, and it sounds like you're having one of the most unique experiences outside of wartime you could ever possibly have.
I say that all the time. I'm like, damn, I was only in for 5 years, but I got this much shit. Like, there's people who never ever got on the helm before. And it's weird because
you've got to kind of like go to how that even became possible before you tell us about the experience.
Okay, so we were
that just underway. Ridiculous.
Yeah, we were underway, and they would have us like switch watch rotations, and sometimes they would have an OS on the bridge to help out, like on a night watch. And I got bored. I was like, I don't feel like sitting here looking at this fucking computer screen the whole time. I'm gonna walk around a little bit. I don't even. I'm not even actually doing anything because the OS is in combat, got everything taken care of. So I went over and we cool with everybody in deck anyway. Like deck is like our brother division. So I'm like, man, teach me how to drive this bitch. And there's like actual ways to do this. So there's no just take over. You actually have to ask permission, and you got to get the verbiage down properly before you can actually take the con or the helm or anything like that.
So like the captain had to okay you practicing?
No, nigga, don't no, not at all.
That's why I need clarification of what you meant by like permission top down.
I'm getting permission because the captain's probably not even on the bridge at that time. Most of the time, he's not. I'm speaking to who's actually on the helm, and to take it from him, which is like BMSN, right? BM3 is driving the ship, which is crazy when you think about it, because it's like the BM3 is driving this bitch. QM1 isn't driving the ship.
So what's the difference there? Because I know there's a lot of acronyms like you mentioned, but we are not privy.
What's the difference between what?
The BM and the QN.
Oh, bosun mate and quartermaster, two oldest rates in the Navy. I think
quartermaster I'm familiar with.
The oldest.
Has to do with like supply and everything like that. What the bolster mate? What was the other one?
Quartermaster.
No, quartermaster, and then what was the other?
Boatswain mate. Boatswain mate. We just call them.
I haven't heard that before. Yes,
Navy shit. But they're driving the actual boat, and they get the recommendation. So a lot of ships have this. It's like what's that shit in your car where you're like you're driving but you're not driving?
Cruise control.
Cruise control. I don't know. I forgot what we call it on the ship, but basically you're never supposed to put the ship in cruise control.
On a cruiser, if it's not called cruise control, that's fucking retarded.
Well, it's like a computer setting, so they probably didn't have it called cruise control, but it's something that you're not supposed to do anyway for the most part. Like they'll get pretty upset. You're supposed to be in real control of the helm and have it between certain degrees when you're driving. So the nav and the con, they'll notice real fast that you're not driving accurately. Right? What we say in the Navy is mind your helm, right? Chief Warren will be up there. And I was like, Chief Warren, you don't even have you have a real job, but you can do whatever you want to do. Like, mind your helm. Because the bosun mate is like, hey, look, man, we moving around a little too much. You got to have this bitch pretty accurate down the middle. So I'm driving it for a little bit, and it's not easy.
Like a little bit, you mean like just a couple minutes, or?
No, I probably drove for like a little bit on my watch. I mean, I didn't drive for like the whole watch, but I drove it. And it's a funny story too, because I'm standing next to my boy. He's like actually driving the boat, and our captain came up, and it was dark. You really couldn't see. So he like pat me on the shoulder, on the back, and and this nigga was like, wait, hold on. Did the captain just smack you in the face? I'm like, no, what are you talking about?
That'd be wild.
And it's midnight, so you can't see anything. So you just hear somebody like smack somebody, but he really smacked me. Just like, I'm learning the helm, and the captain is cool with that. If it's like when
it sounds like it was an attaboy type of thing.
Exactly. That's exactly what it was. When it comes to like learning these kinds of things on the ship, you have to get all kinds of permission. I just did it off the cuff. Like, I'm bored. Let me learn how to do this. I didn't have any real reason to do it. I was just like, fuck it. I'm bored as hell. I'm here on this watch for the next 5 hours. Let me get some lessons on how to drive the boat. Which it was a cool experience. If I could do it again, I definitely would. At least the driving the boat part. But it's hard. Like, you actually got all that force and everything behind you. Navigate.
What are you actually looking at when you're driving it?
The gauge.
What?
The gauges and everything on the screen in front of you.
What does the screen look like? Is it just like representations of numbers, or is there like like cameras of headings, or do they not even rely on actual like visual of what you're looking at? They just rely on stats essentially.
It's a little bit of both. So you could look out and see throughout the bridge wing, and you can see everything in front of you in the ocean, right? But the way where the helm is placed, you don't really get that good of a view. So you have to pay attention to the numbers because everybody else is going to be constantly telling you what to turn and what the speed should be. Right? You're going to constantly have somebody tell you, "Hey, we're turning into 340." Which is funny because there's people who don't know how many degrees are in a circle. Usually both mates.
So that's what that means. When you call out like your heading, like so like what would be like a 1 degree? What would be that call out?
What do you mean?
Like cuz you're calling out your heading based off of 360 degrees, right?
Yeah.
So what would be your call out for like going 1 degree in a direction?
Change course 257 at whatever speed.
Now why would it be 257?
Because it's just a number well, depending on the mobile we do, right? Or whatever direction we're supposed to go in. It's like driving, right? So there's this book that we have to read. It's the rules of the road, and it's really for like the officers, but we have to learn this shit too. Where you actually have to learn how to drive a ship in the middle of the ocean and all the rules that go along with it, and what all the lights from other ships mean, and the lights on your ship, everything that's supposed to, all of that stuff. It's a pretty long book too. When we change course or change a direction, we're almost always doing it to avoid another ship. We don't just do it to do it. If you got a course that's set and we could just sell that bitch for the next 13 days, we would do that. But that's never actually going to happen. So you're going to have to change course little by little.
So it's kind of like an air traffic controller situation.
That's a great way to put it, especially for my job. But think about air traffic controllers, but in the water.
Right. So there's a lot more that you're accounting for, I would imagine. Like there's definitely a lot of things that you have to account for in the air in terms of like winds and everything like that. But I would think in the sea, there are just literally things you cannot account for that can happen.
And we have to account for both as being a ship because we still have to know all the air contacts out there, which is another part of my job. That's the air side of being an OS, which I fucking trash. I hated that shit. But you still have to make sure you know where all the ships are around you. When you get a good radar and you get a good screen, you have to point out where everything is so everybody knows.
What's the wildest thing? Well, actually, before I ask this question, let me just say to the Junkers, we're coming up on 2 hours here, but my friend here, Dre, and myself both had a bang, and this is just kind of a side talk thing here. And I know we're hitting 2 hours, but if you're around, we still around. We on the Cali side. It's only 10:50, so I'm gonna keep this going. I'm gonna keep talking. I'm enjoying this. Hope y'all enjoying this. Whenever you listen to it, whether it's now or later. Apologize for no captions on the bottom and such, but we're just chilling today. We appreciate y'all. We're gonna keep going here. What was the craziest thing that you came across on your watch that you can share with us?
Craziest thing on a watch. Oh my god, it's tough because after a while in deployment, people get real stir crazy and shit, and you see all kind of crazy shit on watch. I don't know. I can't. It's hard to boil it down to one thing, but I can say.
So what's one thing that you can think of?
I'll say when we get on watch and it's a late watch, right? When the red lights are on the ship, the signifies nighttime. That's when all the crazy freaky shit happens. And I'm speaking to other people's stories, but I ain't gonna put nobody's name in it. But I remember I had a BM1. He was a real cool dude. He caught these people leaving one of these little tight spaces we have. So on the ship, there's mad spaces all over the place. And there's if you would try to get some on the boat, you would probably go to one of these spaces because nobody's gonna check this thing out at 1 o'clock in the morning. And people are very horny. So he caught one of his sailors coming out of there with somebody else and said, "Hey, what was y'all doing inside there?" And common sense, it starts to click in your head like, wait a second, y'all was getting freaky on the boat, huh? I remember one time on a duty day, me and my OS1, we're taking care of all this paperwork and all this other shit. We're doing our 8 o'clock reports. I'll explain that after. And I needed his help with one thing, but I couldn't find him. So I was like, where the fuck is he at? I'm looking around. I'm like, you know what? Fuck it. I got the next watch. I'm about to go to sleep. Whatever happens. He'll figure it out. He's the first class. I wasn't even in first class. It wasn't my job to do this. He does the 8 o'clock reports, and sometimes I would step in and help him with them. I couldn't find him that night because he's walking around the ship. He caught these two people having sex. And here's the crazy part. People are fucking retarded. There's two doors, right? One of the doors is sort of like a watertight hatch where you could shut the door and nobody is going to be able to really get inside there without you hearing them open the door. And the other door, you know how the doors will have like a split halfway through that you could open them and close them?
Yeah.
He saw homegirl on her knees, and obviously you know what she's doing. And he's like, I'm not leaving until both of y'all come out. So they're caught. They're done. And me personally, if I caught homegirl giving head in the boat, I'd be like, y'all stupid as hell. What are y'all doing? But he, some people are model sailors. So he writes them up. They get in trouble.
Damn. I mean, if they don't have any offenses, can you I feel like you should give them a gimme.
Yeah, right. Sure. I mean, I really don't know what I would do. But this girl had leave. She had leave scheduled like in 2 days. So I'm like, what the fuck was you thinking? You was that horny? You came to the boat and you about to go on leave just to give this dude some head? Whatever. Fine. Go.
That is pretty dumb.
Yeah. People in the Navy. Dumb.
That's like I'm retiring in 2 days and then taking a dangerous case,
Yeah, yeah, right. Like every cop movie. I couldn't understand it, but when you think of like the crazy things you see on the ship, they're either really nasty or really, really freaky. There's not too much paranormal activity, which I've heard some stories about that. Like there's people who commit suicide on the ship and people say the ship is haunted now. I don't know about that one because somebody committed suicide on my first ship. I wasn't there for that. That happened before I got to the ship, but they said the space that he killed himself in, they thought it was haunted.
So that's wild.
Yeah.
But also not that wild if you're aware of military life and stuff. Suicide is unfortunately more common than it should be. But to not go into something that dark, let's kind of go back a little bit in your Navy experience.
I mean, your story, and I'm like, man, this shit kind of normal after a while when you start to see how these people are. It's like, oh, this is regular behavior for people to act this crazy.
Yeah. I mean, I feel you on that, but it's definitely something that is not accurately portrayed to people and put in a way to where they can really understand it. Because again, it's so highly stylized and glorified. Sometimes it's done well to where it's just a really good depiction, but we've kind of gotten away from great depictions. Like Band of Brothers is one of the best just wartime productions that I think was ever made. Because it actually told a story of an actual group of people, and I'm sure there's embellishments in there, but there's also there's accountability, and I definitely enjoyed that in like the Pacific. I forgot what it's called, but the Pacific campaign they did as well. Nowadays, it just seems to be more or less propagandized or just glorifying or just it's for the sake of it, and it's not really making you feel like I feel like growing up there was more movies like that when they came out when they were wartime. It made you feel patriotic. Now they just were like, yeah, ba 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 ba, bang bang, pow pow, shoot shoot, gun gun. You know what I mean?
It reminds me.
It wasn't propaganda then. The tone is just different.
Yeah, it reminds me of what Patrice said because he was talking about how much he's into war movies and war history, and how World War II was like the greatest war that they could really speak on and talk about. So that's why they keep talking about it so much.
Right.
So when you see all these depictions of war in movies, it's most likely going to be World War I or World War II because there's so many different dynamics to those wars, right? As opposed to like the Vietnam War, which there's plenty of good movies on Vietnam, but they can only do so much as far as the conversation goes because it's like, why did we go to Vietnam? Why did this happen? There really wasn't a game.
Yeah.
It was quite pointless to do this, but it still happened.
I wrote a paper in high school about a theory I had based off of what I was learning in class that it wasn't a theory that I had, but that I wrote a paper supporting domino theory being the exact reason why we were in Vietnam. There's no other reason that made sense.
You said domino theory?
Yes, sir.
What's that?
Domino theory was the idea at the time that if a state fell to communism, then it was going to knock over states around it and then cause a fire spread essentially of the idea. And you needed to stop it before it was able to spread to the surrounding areas.
I mean, that's kind of true, but that's not exactly how that worked out. It's so weird too, because if another country wants to have their own economic or political beliefs, it's like just let them have it, right? But
the problem is that humans can't do that without infringing upon other people.
Of course not. But that's why the domino theory has some validity to it. We were supposed to go to Vietnam on deployment too. That would have been cool.
If there is anything that I would change about the domino theory is that it needs to remove its restriction to communism and just be a general theory of idealism.
Yeah, I figured it would be like that. I don't know exactly if domino theory is specific to communism because I feel like any type of thought could spread like wildfire if people really wanted it to.
That's where it arose from at least my understanding at the time. I mean, I was a high school student, but I did care about it and did. According to Mr. Magda, which I don't know if you know him, but he knew a lot about history. He thought I did well in the paper. Because I didn't really take a lot of papers seriously in school because they weren't interesting topics I could choose from. But when you could choose your own, I was like, oh, hell yeah, I'll learn whatever the fuck I want about this. I wrote another great paper about like Blackbeard and pirates.
No, I remember Mr. Magda. I don't know if I ever had him as a teacher though. I don't think I did. But yeah, that was a good.
Shout out to Mr. Magda, Mr. Haxey, and Mrs. Noons, and additional teachers that were dope at Wilby High School. Hope you all doing well. If you've ever seen these shows, hope you laughed.
Doubt it. Especially this episode. This is definitely not family friendly. Well, not.
I mean, compared to other stuff, this is. I mean, I wouldn't say ever show this to your family, but this is fairly entertaining. I think you're definitely illuminating a lot about the Navy here, especially for me, because most of the people that I know that are in the military have been in the Marines. Like, I don't even know a lot of people in the Army, and those that I know in the Air Force are actually still serving. Shout out to Kels. Hope you're doing well, bro.
I'm pretty sure Cal's been out. Cal's got out there.
Oh, he's out?
Yeah, he's been out.
Damn, bro. I need to talk to my guy.
Yeah, I talked to him a little while ago. He's out. Like, talk to him about what they do in the Air Force. I'm like, man, I got my golf game up, you know.
I gotta get him. We gotta get him and you up here so you guys can talk military together. That would be great.
Or talk golf.
You know, whatever. I mean, I'm sure that the conversations would go all over the place talking to Kels.
Oh no, especially like depending on what part of the world he went to or where he was in.
I know he was in Germany for a while. I think he was at Rammstein.
Yeah, I wish I could have went to places like Germany. I was a West Coast sailor though, so I was in the Pacific the whole time, and the West Coast and all that other shit.
Where was the coolest place that you went?
You said the coolest place that I went?
Yeah, like for you personally.
Bahrain. Definitely Bahrain.
Really?
Yeah, Singapore was really nice too. I'll say all the countries in the Middle East, Bahrain was definitely the best one. And all the countries in the Pacific, Singapore was the best one.
Now, why is that the case for Bahrain? Because you literally never hear anybody talk about that place.
I don't know. Bahrain is on the low. But I went there, and we went there a couple times, and I bought a lot of gold. I went to the gold souk. It was really
you bought a lot. They just have like a gold store.
yeah. They got more than just a store. It's like a really big deal out there, and I'm mad at myself that I didn't buy more gold because the value.
What the fuck? I'm sorry, that's just a wild. Talking about Bahrain being on the low, I've never heard about a place where it's like, yeah, no, we just have a gold market. You should get some. It's like, yeah, no shit. What?
Yeah, like so, all the countries in the Middle East got gold souks. That's what they call the souk, where you get your gold. But Bahrain had like the best, and I'm pretty sure most of the countries over there they have like a law that says you can't buy gold over there that's less than 18 karat. At the minimum is gonna be 18 karat gold.
Well, that's good.
So yeah, you're getting high quality gold. And I basically bought the gold as for gifts for other people. I didn't even buy it for myself like that, you know. But I wish I spent another $2,000 or $3,000.
Hell yeah, I would have been eating those fucking. You know how you talking about you would go by and look at the food that was at the end of the day and shit. Man, I would be Tupperwareing the fuck out of that shit under my bunk. I'd be making sure I had an in on when they were coming by, and I would have bought all this gold and be like, look, you let me know this gold bar is for you. I would have been doing a Bad Company 2 gold bar search. It's like, what the fuck is going on? Do we have an Air Force base here? Fuck cocaine. Let me get some gold. I've never fucking heard of that. That's insane. My nigga, is it safe there? Can we just get tickets to Bahrain?
No, that was the lick. So the first classes would tell us what they're playing, what they used to do when they were younger, right? They would go over to the Middle East. They would spend crazy money on gold over there, come back to the United States and sell it at a higher rate because there's a higher quality of gold over there. So say you spend $4,000 in gold rings and some bracelets and shit like that. You come to the United States and get double, triple that. And the people who have, the jewelers over here, they're gonna look at that and say, "Oh, that's high quality type shit." You can't undersell me on this because it's like, man, I came straight from the source.
Right, like there's no middleman here. This is this was mined and then refined, and I bought it.
Yeah, it's high quality shit, and I wish I bought more, but that was the lick. So a lot of dudes say you could get up $10,000 doing that. You got to spend a little bit, but go to a pawn shop, go to a legit place, and they're gonna say, "Oh, this is really good gold." It might have cost you $3,000 over there, which is really not a lot of money in the grand scheme of things. Where it's like I could have spent $3,000 or $4,000 more dollars, and then make double that coming back. Here.
I'm definitely gonna go down some type of rabbit hole of Bahrain because I'm aware of the country, but it's never ever. I forgot about it. I'm not even gonna act like I remember. I remember all the Yemen, Oman, fucking Djibouti. I remember that on the horn. Like I remember obscure places, but nope. You could tell me that was a fucking Mandela effect. I'd be like, maybe that one actually draws.
Bahrain is nice. Bahrain's not even real. Like they made that shit up.
It
From-
sounds like it.
Yeah,
I feel like this is the most unbelievable thing you've said so far.
that Bahrain was the shit. Yeah, crazy, right?
Well, I mean, you haven't even gotten to that. You just mentioned the first thing you mentioned is you went there and there was a fucking gold market. It's like, well, what? Fuck
I mean,
going to Nike.
we would go, man. Fuck all that buying sneakers. I definitely bought some sneakers and shit. But I remember going to the Gold Souk. I went to the Gold Souk the first time. I couldn't believe it. I was like, they got all of this shit here, and it's like say $700
Wait, you said
for
the Gold Coast?
Gold Souk.
Okay.
Yeah, you could get a nice bracelet, nice chain for $700. Real quality gold, like 21 karat gold, $700. I'm like, damn, I should keep doing this. That was really like the highlight of going to Bahrain. And I got all kinds of crazy Bahrain stories, but that's the thing I really miss the most. When we pull in, there's this place called American Alley in Bahrain, which is like where they actually have American food. But who the fuck wants to eat Taco Bell in what's that N.W? Like why would you want to eat that in part of the world? I don't know.
I'm not gonna lie. If I'm going to different parts of the world, knowing the fact that our food is subpar even for major brands, I would probably stop by for a meal and be like, unless it looked dirty, I'd be like, let me see what you're doing here.
No, I mean I could understand. So if you coming in late drunk, it's 2 o'clock in the morning, you gotta get some Taco Bell. I might get get some quesadillas or whatever.
Like,
But
they gotta have something unique, something that you're never gonna find in the States.
oh no, that's definitely a thing in the Asian McDonald's for sure.
Oh hell yeah! I see advertisements for stuff like that where it's like, is that a black?
I don't know. I
Black?
think that's the thing in Japan, and I'm pretty sure it's real, but I would never eat that.
Yeah,
But
it's like squid based. That's why.
squid based.
Yeah, they use squidding for the bun, and that's why it's all black and all that shit.
Oh.
But they like squid a lot. I don't mind calamari, but like I don't need ink, bro. I'm not writing a letter, and I'm definitely not gonna drink it.
Nah, definitely staying away from black burgers, black buns, and that's just nah. But you definitely see a difference in the menus around the world anyway, but especially McDonald's. McDonald's being the brand that they have. Have you ever heard of Jollibee?
I have, but I've never been.
Man, that place is the weirdest restaurant I've ever seen in my life, yo. The menu is crazy.
I mean,
Weirdest.
it's a bee on it that's all happy, and they sell chicken, right?
They sell chicken and spaghetti at the same time. And a
Oh my
burger.
God, as a combo?
It's the weirdest palate you could ever have, but the Filipinos love that place. Like Jollibee is the shit to the Filipinos.
That kind of makes sense because I know noodles are heavy out there, and everybody loves chicken.
Yeah, especially like a fried chicken. But I seen there's Jollibees in America for sure. But when we were in what country? I think we were in Singapore. We went to the Jollibee over there, and I just couldn't believe the menu. I didn't even know what to eat because it was so confusing. Cause I'm like, well, you got chicken wings.
It's like, what's good here?
You got cheeseburgers and like seafood at this. Like, all right, this is weird. Jollibee is the shit though, because it's not bad food. It's just a weird blend of food.
How's the spaghetti?
I didn't eat the spaghetti. I'm not eating that.
Okay, I was gonna say, like, for somebody that has the audacity to combine, like, because I mean, at the end of the day, it's not that far from a chicken parm, but also there's a very foreign concept to just be like at a fast food place and be like, hey, you want some chicken and spaghetti? It's like, yeah, fast food spaghetti. It's like, well, spaghetti is one of the fastest things that you could cook, even if you prepared your sauce the day before, like did a long time of like preparation or early day preparation of sauce for the day, you could make some fast food spaghetti that's pretty fucking bomb. That doesn't exist. It should, but it doesn't exist.
If I'm gonna get some spaghetti, I'm gonna go to an Italian restaurant and get, I'll pay a pretty penny for some good Italian food. But I didn't expect spaghetti in an Asian country as like one of their main, well, not their main foods, obviously, but in their little fast food place. But Jollibee is straight. I fuck with Jollibee. But if I'm in, like I was like talking about being in Bahrain, I'm not gonna eat Taco Bell and all that other shit. I'm gonna go out in the town and see what they got and eat the local food. I'm gonna try it at the very least.
What's the best and worst thing you ate?
Like in Bahrain,
Yeah.
what's that shit called? The shawarma.
Yeah, I've heard about shawarma. I've never had legit shawarma. I mean, I
Yeah,
had shawarma in Waterbury, but
now it was good. I would definitely say, well, it's one of the things. It's like it's different. It's it's something you're not used to having, not used to eating. But like I said, I'm on a whole nother part of the world. I'm gonna try their food out. I'm not that picky when it comes to food either, so I can't be like, oh, this was terrible. Only way food is really bad if it's like undercooked and it's like not not prepared properly.
right, or if it's something fucking ridiculous like tarantulas.
Uh, yeah, absurd. Why would you ever want to do that to yourself? No nutritional value. It's fucking gross.
Yeah, I think if anybody ever says, especially on the show, that they would eat tarantulas, I think the Junkers and anybody in general should just definitely hold them accountable for how fucked up that is.
Especially fried tarantulas.
Oh hell yeah! They are trying to say it's okay as a topping on anything or with a sauce.
Of all
Not acceptable.
I eat, a tarantula is definitely not on my list. But I ate crickets before. I did do that. I don't know why. It was like spicy crickets.
Bugs are less ridiculous to me to a certain degree.
No, I mean, if you eat like a worm or a cricket, it got a bunch of protein in it. And more importantly, you'll try some shit like that. It's like, yeah, I'm in a whole other part of the world, man. Fuck it. Let me eat some crickets. When was it?
Let's
Eat
be
some
honest.
crickets. I'm like, in my life.
I mean, like, let's be honest. The only reason why in the West we don't eat bugs and worms and stuff like that is because there are no culinary or financial means, more so financial means of capitalizing on it as a food. If somebody could figure out a way to make worms sensible and delicious and not like creepy, or bugs in general, and be like, nah, actually this is one of the most efficient ways you can grow your own bugs at home that are 100% clean, and you can put them in this masher thing that'll turn them into a bug patty, and it tastes exactly, and it does taste exactly like a regular burger. People would be like, I don't know. But there's always those people like, yeah, of course I'm going to do it because it's healthy and good for the planet. And it'll start to become normalized. And because everything that's normalized by them becomes pushed on the rest of us, you will get some McDonald's bug burgers. And people were like, well, I tried it and it's not so bad. I saw a video of, and I didn't verify it. I hope it was fake. I couldn't keep watching. But people were trying a burger and somebody told them that it was made from human shit. And they're like, that's human shit. That's pretty good. And it's like, I'm sorry. Why are you not assaulting the person who gave you that?
It's disgusting. Yeah, that's fucking gross. But speaking of human shit, I got a whole bunch of crazy shit stories in the Navy, right? Because human beings defecate and they got to do something with it. So,
Have you ever had a duty?
elaborate. What do you mean?
Have you ever had to be responsible for like cleaning up the shitters and stuff like that and come across a terrible experience?
That's so. Like I said, you don't really matter in the Navy until you get to E5 or you have an NEC. Everybody is doing maintenance, and more importantly, berthing cleaners. Everybody got to clean the berthing. We live here. We have to clean this place regularly, and we got to clean it thorough. People get drunk sometimes. They piss on a wall, might shit on a wall. Somebody got to clean it up. Usually, we'll make that person clean it up because we're not your fucking parents. But
I was gonna say, if somebody's shitting on the wall, that better be like part of their punishment.
oh no, there's times where somebody shit on a wall. We don't know who it is. Like it's just like you know what I'm saying. Somebody could come in 2 o'clock in the morning when it's like a duty day. People sleep and they drunk and they shit everywhere. Well, it's like somebody got to clean this up. We don't know who did it. So it sucks to suck, but I would never do it. I remember one time I was birthing cleaner, and I'm cleaning the heads, and you clean the toilets and everything, you know, you get all your shit and your equipment on. But I got to one last stall. It ain't just shit all over the seat. It's shit on the wall, shit here. I'm like, that, I'm not doing that. I don't care if we fail inspection or not. I don't give a shit. I'm not cleaning up somebody else's shit like that. Like I remember somebody was saying how they want to get out the Navy and be a janitor because shit, I've been cleaning people's shit for the last 5 years. What's the difference between doing it now? I might as well be an actual janitor. Cleaning up people's toilets and stuff. It's not that big a deal after a while. But there's certain things I'm just not gonna do. Like I'm just not gonna do that. Especially when people shit on the wall. Or they're shitting on all over the toilet seat and the back of the seat. It's like, yeah, I'm not doing that. Like that's nope. Not me. I don't know who.
I don't understand how the fuck people do that. Like I've had not many, but I've
Have you
had
ever
unfortunate
been?
moments where I'm like, this is gonna be intense, and I make a point to where I'm not gonna fucking just. Why would I do that? Clearly, I'm in distress already. I'm gonna ruin my bathroom, and then what? Save that for later? No, I'm gonna make sure everything is as contained as possible in this fucking bowl.
I blame it on people being drunk and not having any decency. That's just me.
That part about decency.
Yeah, because there's times where CHT isn't working on the ship, which is the ship's sewage system, right? And you can't use the head, right? They'll announce it over to 1MC and say you can't use the heads in any aft berthings. Just if you got to take a shit or a piss, go someplace else. But some people don't listen. Some people don't care. Some people might not even know. But it's common sense. Like you go down there and you'll look in the toilets and you'll see, oh, it's no one flushed the toilet. Who knows? I remember one of my friends. He was saying how he couldn't take a shit on the toilet, so he got a garbage bag. It went in the shower and took a shit in the garbage bag, and I'm like, that is intense. That's had to be crazy to do.
That's wild. But you do what you gotta do, and shitting in your clothes is not really an option.
At all. But it's like I say the alcohol because people get drunk and get reckless, and people might just pee on themselves drunk. I don't never ever. I never got that drunk in my life where I would just be like, I'm just gonna pee on myself. I don't understand how that even happens. I never got.
Why?
What'd you say?
I said neither do I.
Like you could still stand up and pee someplace, but I don't know. You don't want to risk that charge. Did I tell you about the dude on my ship? he's a registered sex offender because he took a piss in public at a concert.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, it's actually quite hilarious, I think. But he was telling the story about how he couldn't pick up his daughter from school. And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, why can't you pick up your daughter? He was like, I can't because he was like, I'm on the sex offender list. And I was like, this is the Navy, so people have these kind of conversations kind of open. And I thought he was joking. I was like, bro, that's not really funny. Like, are you serious right now? And he explained the story how they were at a show, at a concert in Hawaii. And people get drunk and he took a piss. And he's, this is at a concert. And he peed on somebody by accident. And the rest is history. Where I was like, damn, you have to be registered as a sex offender now? That's kind of crazy that's how the law works. It's like he didn't molest any kids. He just took a piss in public, but that's public indecency. And you're not supposed to do those kinds of things. But I've taken a piss in public before. I'm just gonna be a lot smarter than do it at a concert. Definitely not gonna do it when there's a couple hundred people around me.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a better situation to do that. Although to be put on the sex offender list, I feel like there should be a slightly different list for that.
There's levels to the sex offender thing too, because if you were to go on the computer and look at the registered sex offenders in your area, in your like zip code, you'd be kind of worried. But then you got to realize every person on that list has different charges for different things. I'm not saying you should let them people babysit your kids or anything like that, but you don't know what they got their charges for.
This is true. This is very true. Hold on a second here.
That's terrible.
Yeah, sorry about that. Hello, I'm back. But yeah, no, that is wild and very true about sex offender lists. If you want to freak yourself out, go ahead and take a look at who lives around you.
Don't don't do that. Don't do
Don't
it. Now you're
don't
gonna
do it.
sit up and think everybody around you is a fucking creep, which you never know, man. This is the a dark turn, a really dark turn for the worse. But yeah, got to register as a sex offender because he got drunk at a concert. But that's Navy shit. Like people get drunk and piss in public, which I don't think you should be registered as a sex offender for that. But you should definitely you should get some punishment, whatever. You're muted.
Something, right? You should get some type of reprimand.
Some
But
sort of punishment, especially seeing you're gonna get punished by your command. The ship is gonna punish you, but having the police and the law get on that and put you on a list that actual pedophiles are on, that's not cool. And I don't know how long you have to be on the list if that's what happens.
yeah, that's true as well. But even still, it's just that's an unfortunate stain to have. And it's like, yeah, you gotta take a piss, but they're also supposed to have like porta potties or something. And like, I
We
mean,
call them.
just think better, you know?
Oh yeah, so I don't know if I ever told you about being in the yards in the shipyard life. That's disgusting.
Is that like on land?
Yeah, the shipyards.
Okay.
So when
Uh, Now shipyard is like where they're gonna like you're gonna dock and they're gonna do like repair and shit, right?
like real repairs and real maintenance that we can't do, that
Okay.
that is contracted through a shipyard, and depending on how quick you want to get out of there, well, your captain wants to get out of there, you're going to be in the shipyard from like 7 months to 14 months. So my job in the Navy basically changes from being whatever a sailor has to do to like being a shipyard worker. And my last ship, we were in the shipyard for I think 7-8 months. We got out. We rushed out, and the ship got messed up again after. But that's a whole different story. But my first ship, we were in the shipyard for like 14 months, and every single day, you're living the life of the shipyard workers, and these dudes are working 5 decks below, and you gotta take a piss. You go pee in a water bottle if you got to. That's what they do sometimes. The shipyard is a very nasty place. Crazy. Like I understand the lifestyle of the shipyard workers though, because you don't get paid enough for that. So you're basically gonna say, fuck it. I don't really care about this ship. Some strange people work in the shipyard though. You're muted again.
That's it's kind of funny that when it comes to those that are going to do the most important repairs on your ship, yeah, you're gonna just kind of pay them what you can to get by. It's like you can spend $1 billion on the ship.
Oh
You
no,
can probably pay the repairmen to be well enough to where they actually give a shit about what they're doing.
yeah, they paying a pretty penny. They paying a couple billion for their ship in the shipyard. But the people who are actually working on the shipyard every day,
they're not paying them guys that much money, but it's a good job. It's definitely a good job, and it pays well for them. And it's usually like contractors and the shipyard workers that are higher, ranked and shit, or I guess they've been there longer. Their jobs are good. But like that dude who just started last week and they always get fired. People who got a shipyard job, they don't ever keep them shits for long. They just work at another shipyard.
Really? They mean like they just get transferred?
No, they get fired, so they'll work at a different place or to do something else.
Huh. So like, so you can get fired out of, forgive me for using the term, your MOS, and just be reassigned a new one?
For the shipyard?
Okay, so like you can get assigned the shipyard generally, and then there's a bunch of different jobs within the shipyard.
I'm talking about the people who are contracted by the shipyard, like the people who work for the shipyard. We're working with them now because there's certain jobs we're not gonna do on the ship. So like cleaning the hull of the ship, that's not what we do. But they hire people to do that. Those guys probably
Outside of the military?
Yeah, those are.
And those are what you would call a military contractor, right?
No, because they're not working on the ship just because it's military. They work on ships no matter what. They're gonna clean and do the repairs for a cruiser, a tanker, for any ship.
So the Navy just comes in on like regular businesses and just pays like a business essentially to do it?
Yeah.
Didn't realize that.
Every city
I would have thought that would have been on like
the government,
just a military base that has like a naval launch point, and you would have Navy sailors that are dedicated to cleaning and taking care of the ships. I didn't realize that they were paying us to maintain the ships at the most critical point.
Yeah, that's
and not paying us well.
No, well, the shipyard gets paid very well by the government when they move a naval ship in there. But they're getting paid pretty good by everybody. But the Navy's like, hey, we're gonna have this ship in the shipyard for X amount of time. That government contract with a shipyard is, like you said, some billions. But they're not gonna have us clean the ship. Like we still go to the ship every day, which is crazy because the ship ain't going anywhere. But we're still cleaning the ship, sweeping the ship, and doing little maintenance here and there. But to fix the propellers or to fix the hull or clean the hull, like when you put the ship up, and it's a crazy process how they do it. When you look underneath the bottom of the ship and see all the shit that's underneath there, all the actual barnacles, right? Shit like that. It's fucking funny, right?
I was about to ask about that. I was like, oh, shit.
Ouch.
Yeah, that's what wireless headphones do. Anyway, I was going to ask about barnacles. Like, do you really get barnacles like that? Do they really build up? And do you know why they actually do that?
Yeah, you got to think the ocean life is going to get comfortable when your ship is out there for all that time. And your ship is going to lose its paint and everything like that. So they're going to paint the hull, clean it, get all that shit off. It's a long process too. It's like a 2-day process to get the ship into the shipyard and elevate it.
No kidding.
And I had to stay there overnight to do that. That was my duty section's job once. But they hire people to clean this, and we're here to clean it too. But we're not doing the same job they're doing. I remember going to the shipyard and seeing the dudes have the helmets, the Air Pros, the Eye Pro, the mask before everybody started to wear the mask for COVID, right? Oh, I shouldn't have said that. But he had them. They're cleaning the bottom of the hull of the ship wearing a mask, and I'm like, if he got to wear that, I should probably wear that too, right? That would only make sense. I don't want to breathe in the shit he's scraping off the bottom of the ship. So I started to wear a mask to the ship, and HMC was like, "What are you doing? Why are you wearing a mask?" And And I'm like, oh, we're in the fucking shipyard. You know, all these chemicals and shit I'm breathing in every day. He's like, nah, take that off. And I was about to get out the Navy, so I didn't even really feel like going back and forth with it. But I kind of regret that. I should have just, I got to a point where I was like, I want to be a problem. I want to make life difficult for those motherfuckers in the chief's mess and in the wardroom. I'm going to do that. I'm going to be that guy. Which I did plenty of times.
What made you, like, when did you want to start doing that? Like, was it early on?
Being a problem? It wasn't early on because when I first got into the Navy, I approached my job, I would say serious because I approach everything like that. So I'm not going to half-ass my job and my work and the things I'm responsible for because my name is on it. But after you realize that shit is all a facade and it doesn't really matter anyway, you're like, oh, okay, I don't give a fuck. Like, I told them, y'all should have never let me get a second class rank. Should have never let that happen. Because now
You should never gave niggas money.
They should have never gave a nigga like me OS2. Why did they do that? I don't know. I mean, I know why, but once I realized, I'm gonna get paid twice a month, no matter what. Why would I take my job more seriously than I already take it? Like I was never a bare minimum person, but I realized there's no real incentive for me to go above and beyond anymore. Like I don't care. Like I never thought I would get a NAM. I got a NAM, a Navy Achievement Medal. I never thought I would have a NAM. I don't care about that kind of shit though.
What exactly does that mean?
A NAM? It's a.
Is that like
award.
Employee of the Month, or is it more?
A little more than Employee of the Month, my guy.
And I'm just asking, like, what is it like? What would it equivocate to? I've never heard of it.
I can't really equate it to any. I say so. Like Employee of the Month would sort of be like, I wouldn't even say Blue Jacket of the Quarter. So they have these awards that they do for like Sailor of the Year, Sailor of the Quarter, Senior Sailor of the Year, shit like that. And a NAM is you get a NAM for basically a big accomplishment that you have in the Navy, or you get an end of tour NAM. But if you have your tour on your ship and you did a good job, you was thorough, they'll give you an end of tour NAM. If you were a piece of shit and you just didn't contribute at all, they'll just say, hey, it was nice to know you. My first I got an end of tour NAM, but not my second ship because I was a piece of shit and I don't. I'm like, yo, why would I care to do anything more than I'm supposed to? There's no real incentive to this. And it's a terrible attitude you develop, which it's like I'm only doing this because I see what's really around me. Because I'm not that kind of person. But I'm also not gonna do extra and still get treated like shit. Like, why would I do more?
I mean, that makes sense. It's not. I mean, even though it's similar to how corporate or real job life structures can be, it's dissimilar enough to where if you're at a certain wall without doing certain things that you don't want to do, but you're also safe from just not putting in more than what you have to. There's, like you said, there's no incentive. There's no reason for you to do it unless you as a person have a compelled reason or you need to just do well because that's how you function. If there's no offer on the table for you to do your best, you shouldn't do so. And that comes in real life as well, because companies bet on the fact that there are people that will give their all the time, as opposed to know to give their all, show their worth, and then pull back and just do what they pay for.
And see, when I was second class and I'm talking to the younger junior sailors, I would see some people who have great work ethic. Like they show up ready to work every single day. They focused. I would tell them, man, if I had 20 of you in this division, I wouldn't have to worry about a fucking thing. But I got people who are like you, and I got people who are the complete opposite. And these are the people who I got to worry about. Like I don't got no kids, but these are like my kids now, even though they're 20-year-old, 19-year-olds. And I have to actually worry about what they're going to do when they get out of work and when they're at work. Because 19-year-old kids, reckless. They do crazy shit. I'm not gonna say like I wasn't crazy, but I wasn't as crazy as some of these kids. I'm responsible for them, whether I like it or not. So I've seen
That's crazy. You gotta help navigate the ship, and then you also gotta take care of this fucking rambunctious group of people.
rambunctious 19-year-olds who they think they know everything, like teenagers always do, and they're just fucking kids. And I can't be mad at them because we all make mistakes, or we all do things that we're not supposed to do. But I would see the kids who were like dedicated and work hard, and I'd be like, yo, don't let them abuse you. Don't let them make you do everything in the division and volunteer for everything, or get voluntold for everything. Don't always be that person, because once they know you're thorough and you're competent, they're gonna make you do everything, and that leads to people getting burnt out. That's why you see so much turnover in my job, because you see people who work so hard and they were so good for 4 or 5 years, and they're like, "Nah, I'm done. I don't want to keep doing this because I know it's only gonna get worse. I know y'all not gonna give me a real break,
Right.
or force other people to get qualified, so I don't have to be the only person that's qualified in this." But yeah, man, sometimes I miss my kids. They're just it's just funny the things to do. And like, so we had this one dude. It was really weird because we got like a whole new group of like fucking OSSNs and everything. And they were all like 5'4". They were all little people, but they weren't like male and female, 5'2", 5'3", like little kids. I'm like, damn, what the hell? All these little churn around me. And this one
Yeah, a
dude,
bunch of frogmen.
yeah, like bunch of gnomes. This one dude we had, he like it's kind of sad to see people join the Navy and be motivated and be focused and really want to do the job for real, and then experience what this really is. They fall out of love with this, and they're like, "Oh, I don't really want to do this anymore." So we had a kid write a letter to the captain begging to be separated. He asked the captain in a letter to just take me out the Navy. I don't want to do this anymore. That doesn't go over.
Wow.
You know how crazy that is, because one thing they tell us in the Navy all the time is to honor the chain of command. So if you OS2, you don't go to the captain and say something. Like, you don't do that. You broke the chain of command by just saying, "Oh, I want to talk to."
You can't just do that.
Yeah, like if I talk to OS1 to talk to OSC, if I needed, and there's times I could talk to Chief about something, but the rules. So he wrote a letter to the captain saying this. And I could just imagine the backlash the division got for that, because it's saying, so you got your seamen just out of line. They could just write whatever, they do whatever they want to do, huh? They could just say whatever they want to say. And the captain's like, "Yeah, I'm not separating you just because you asked. That's not how it goes." So he smoked weed to get separated and got kicked out the Navy, because you can't outsmart some people.
That's hilarious. And I also think it's hilarious that we went almost 3 hours, and I don't think semen was said at any point until just now.
I made sure not to say that, because I know the connotations with Navy, and it's fucking gross.
It really is. Especially since most people honestly say cum. They don't say semen, but it's just like semen.
Not, and it's every rank in the Navy to start is seaman. So it's like seaman apprentice, seaman recruit, and seaman. I don't even know if that's the order. I don't even care anymore. But we had
semen.
the seaman write a letter to the captain saying, "Nah, separate me, kick me out." Captain's like, "I'm not gonna do that." So he just smokes a bunch of weed and fails the drug test, because
That's
you
crazy.
can't outsmart some people.
The captain is celibate, so he smokes weed to get out.
That's how you got to do it. That's one way to get out of the Navy if you really want to get out, which is so stupid, because it's like, bro, you're gonna ruin your chance to get an honorable discharge. But okay, some people don't care about that. We had this one dude in the division, one little dude. also a seaman, right? He would get into fights. He got into a fight at a gas station on video.
Like random people, not with like crewmen.
With everybody, right? But not so. Sometimes it was physical fights. Other times it was him just being a little like the Napoleon complex, right? The short guy who's got to prove himself and talk crazy. And it's one thing to be short, but he's like short in probably like 110 pounds. Like these are grown ass people too. It's like, bro, you're 20 years old and you look like a 12-year-old. You gotta relax. Like somebody could throw you through a fucking glass. Like stop.
Looking like Voldemort when he's in the fucking train station under the bench.
Little kids, man. So this one time he got into a fight at a gas station with the gas station like attendant, and they have it on video. And when you get legal trouble like this, everybody's gonna find out. It's just a matter of time.
Right.
And
especially nowadays.
But see, my thing is, some people go looking for fights because they have something to prove, or they feel like they have something to prove. It's like, bro, you don't got to be like that. So I gotta get to talk to him. But that was my road dog though. Me and bro, we got into some trouble, and he was a real one that held it down. I appreciate, bro.
I mean, that's always good.
Nah, some people, they get in trouble and you don't know what to expect.
I agree with you. And I definitely have to remember to ask you about some of the people that you've met. However, I think we're coming up on 3 hours now, and
Yeah.
myself, I haven't actually ate my dinner. I had 3 of those wings, and then I need to eat, and then I gotta go to bed, and I can't go to bed right after I eat. So I'm gonna have to say goodbye, even though I could keep going again. Because honestly, this is a podcast, and if you listen and you listen, you can pause and stop with it. That's how it started back in the day. People were just talking and talking until they couldn't talk no more. I'm cutting it short because I gotta work tomorrow, and I'm hungry. But this has been quite insightful, Dre. I appreciate the illumination you have here, and I think we'll definitely be back to do this again, because even though we've been bouncing around, we still were only really touching upon different things, and there's definitely a lot that we can unfold and learn about here. So before we go, I do want to say a shout out to our sponsors. First of all, we got Big Scalabar. Once again, that delicious brownie supplement nutritious bar, energy bar. It only has 6 simple ingredients: dates, cashews, almonds, cocoa powder, coconut oil, and sea salt. We do apologize if you're allergic to the nuts, but hey, we got nuts on the show and we got to give them to you. Gluten-free, all-natural, vegan, no added sugar, no ingredients you can't pronounce. Dutch processed cocoa powder that gives Excalibur a unique, rich, chocolate flavor. And be sure to put in your promo code of TalkJunk69 to get 10% off every order. Evie. Got to make sure I do that correctly there. And then, of course, we have the wonderful Dizzle, the mango flavored premium liqueur of a tequila and cognac that is, from what we have been told by Dre and Jasmine, a wonderful, delicious blend. Definitely got to get a bottle for myself here and give y'all a review. Dre, I don't know if you've been able to get any, but I definitely have to check it out. It always makes me think of Snoop Dogg because of Dizzle on there, but that's not a bad thing. Definitely gotta try it out. I like tequila, like cognac. Sounds delicious, especially for the summertime. So get yourself a bottle of Dizzle. I believe it goes for about $20 or so for $7.50. So thank you once again for hanging out. I'm not sure how long it's just been one person in the chat, but whoever you are, thank you. We appreciate it. And whoever listens in the future, hope you enjoyed this look into the Navy and you're having a great day or whatever it is you have going on. And we will see you next time. Adios.
Peace.